Council meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation to be given by Vice Mayor Greg Boland. Pledge. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Boland. Okay, tonight I'm very pleased that we have, a roll call first. Yes, I'm very pleased that we have a roll call.
Vice Mayor Boland.
Here.
Councilmember Culleton. Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Rawlings is absent. Mayor Lauder.
I'm here. Okay, we have our employee recognition of our 15-year, 10-year, and 5-year employees of the town of Paradise. So I'm going to start off with, I believe we have Lillian Booth, our dispatch communication supervisor. Come on forward, Lillian, and followed by Robert Haskins. Okay. So Lillian is our communications and records supervisor at the police department, and she's been with us 15 years. Thank you, Lillian. Officer Robert Haskins. Next, we have our 10-year employees, Candace Mays Keeler, with our public works and not able to attend tonight is Officer Will Wagner, who's working a shift in dispatch, but the police chief will accept on his behalf. Thank you, Chief. That was our 10-year employees. Now we get to our 5-year employees. Next we have Matt Gilbert. Matt here. Okay. Matt is our construction inspector, and accepting for him is our public works manager, Paul Durr. Thank you, Paul. Matt, thank you.
Hey, Matt.
Officer John Wilkie. Where's the dog?
He's in the car.
He hasn't had 5 years with you yet, right?
Dog use, he's actually got 14.
Okay. Thank you, John.
Thank you very much.
Dr. Ash. Sean Jordan, our police department CSO, is not able to be here. Neither is Carol Ladrini, who's one of our dispatchers. So the chief will accept those two. Thank you, Chief. Next, I have Gina Will, our treasurer and finance director. And Josh, you're next. So, thank you, Gina.
Yeah.
So next is Josh Marquis. He is our IT manager. He's going to make sure that the PA system works and the cameras are working, because you can watch this at home on live stream. I have Dina Walensky. Dina is our deputy town clerk. And Kate Anderson. Is Kate here? There's Kate. Kate runs the Business and Housing Services Office, to our first-time home buyers program, and Housing Renovation Program. Next, I have Sergeant Eric Reinbold. And Eric is Paradise born and raised, so stay around. Did Shirley from Animal Control get here? Okay, we didn't. So we had Shirley Camp from Animal Control, and so the chief will come forward and accept that. Hey, I want to thank you, everybody, on that. And then next I have a presentation for WTS. And WTS is a parking lot sweeping company. And they donated their services to do some interim sweeping. So Laura Nelson of WTS and Jamie Hartley. Are they here tonight? Come on forward. Okay, we have no items deferred from the previous meeting. Next item is our consent calendar. One roll call vote will be taken for all items placed on the consent calendar unless somebody wants to hold off. Do we have any questions on the consent calendar from the council before I open it up? Do we have any cards on the consent calendar?
No cards, but you might want to note that there is the adoption of ordinance number 538, which is amending section 3.40070 relating to development impact fee adjustments boards.
Okay,
and
so
that's
duly
up for
noted.
adoption. Yes.
Is essentially the final reading or the final meeting where that's brought forth to us. So, any questions? We don't have any cards. I'll entertain a motion.
I move we accept.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor Boland and a second by Councilwoman Jones. Roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Boland,
Aye.
Councilmember Culleton, Councilmember Jones,
Aye.
Councilmember Rawlings is absent, and Mayor Lauder.
Aye.
Consent calendar is adopted.
Okay. Next, with the council's concurrence, I want to move item 7C, which is the Downtown Safety Project presentation. I'd like to move that forward and do that now. So Mark is going to, because we do that at each council meeting, and he's going to give a comprehensive report on the Downtown Safety Project. So take it away, Mark Maddox, our town engineer.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Council. Thank you. Tonight's presentation serves as an update and as well as a complete project background for the general public who have just heard about the project for the first time. This is actually the third time in the last 3 months that we're bringing it before Council, updating on our project status and the current progress towards design and public outreach. So I'd like to start off with a quick agenda. Our PowerPoint will have a lot of information. We'll have time for questions at the end, but we'll be looking at existing conditions and collision history, how this project came about, why a road diet, looking at how this project is funded and exactly what this project will do and what it will not do. And we'll close with our update on schedule and public outreach. First, as far as existing conditions and project history, let's divide the presentation and the topic into two different areas. One in front of Town Hall here at 5555 Skyway, and also in our downtown district between Pearson Road and Elliott Road. Here at Town Hall, we have a 5-lane cross-section and 24,000 vehicles per day. In the last 3 years, we've had 3 fatal pedestrian collisions in this influence area of Town Hall. In downtown, however, we have different fixed parameters. We have a fixed 60-foot road width. We must provide on-street parking for the businesses, and we have a 20,000 vehicle per day traffic count. From those existing conditions that are fixed, we have many different observed challenges. We have 2 independent and inefficient traffic signals, 7 uncontrolled crosswalks. Left turns currently cause through lanes to back up, and so it's serving as a turn lane when the number 1 lane backs up due to a vehicle looking to turn left. We have an aging roadway, limited lighting, and we have non-ADA compliant curb returns. And what that means is our mobility is restricted in the downtown because we don't have ADA compliance for going from business to business. And so that's an issue in the downtown. We currently have high motorist speeds. Average speeds can range between 37 and 38 miles per hour. And this specific section in the downtown has the highest collision rate in the town of Paradise. We have a 5.89 collisions per million vehicle miles rate, and that's nearly double the state average. As far as our downtown collision data, in the last 10 years, we've had 90 injury collisions, indicated on this map with the yellow dots highlighted in the red. So of those 90 injury collisions, the majority of those, almost 50 of those, are rear-end accidents, and that's a direct indication, correlation between the lack of a turn lane. In addition, the majority of those collisions are due to unsafe speed, which is, again, also traces back to a lack of a turn lane. When police officers categorize what actually caused a collision, unsafe speed is generally a catch-all for following too close, not paying attention in front of you when a car is looking to turn left. Again, at those injury collisions, who's involved? Another motor vehicle? Yes, 72 out of 90, the majority. But in our downtown, our supposedly most pedestrian-friendly area, we've got 10 involving a pedestrian or bicyclist. So that presents a very big challenge in our downtown. So how did we end up with this project? It all started back in 2009 or 2008, really, with the Skyway Corridor study. And what this study did is it looked at the adjacent land uses for Skyway between town limits, and it divided each section into segments, looking at what is the best road cross-section to meet our desired community objectives. And so a part of that report, they addressed speed, pedestrian safety, downtown issues, conflicts, and turn lanes. Well, as far as looking at segment B, which is the downtown, they determined that this critical on-street parking must stay, but we are observing high speeds and frequent collisions. And the average motorist yield rate for a crossing pedestrian was as low an average of 42%. So that's indicative of a pedestrian looking across the street and motorists just flying by, not paying attention to the state law which requires that motorists yield to pedestrians crossing the street. As part of this corridor study, they did an extensive public outreach process, complete with stakeholder meetings and interviews. They had a public workshop where you could vote on different alternatives, and they also met with the RDA Citizens Advisory Committee. They also looked at different alternatives. They considered alternative 2 and 3, which are on the left, and those alternative 2 was 2 travel lanes only, no turn lane, and 45-degree parking because we have a fixed road width. And that was not selected to move forward. Alternative 3 was 2 northbound lanes and 1 southbound lane with a center turn lane also. This alternative was not selected to move forward because it did not meet all of the objectives for pedestrian safety. However, they did conclude that their preferred option was a road diet, and that was alternative 1, including 2 travel lanes, 1 per direction, and a center 2-way left turn lane, including 2 bike lanes or a buffer, while maintaining the parallel parking. So why a road diet? Why should we consider moving forward? Well, in the pre-1980s, road design was very different than what it is today. If your road volume was greater than 6,000 vehicles per day, then widen, perfect candidate. And they stated that safety would improve because we would add gaps between the traffic. More capacity, more gaps, safer. And their conclusion was also that you could avoid a rear-end collision by changing lanes. You'd no longer have to yield to the person in front of you. You could just go around them. Well, actually, here's an example of that 4-lane layout similar to exactly what we have on Skyway. But in 1999, they did a report on that expansion. Was that decision really an effective one? And when they compared different corridor elements such as volume, delay, speed, travel time, or percent traveling over the speed limit, all of those indicators increased. And actually, the accident rate increased 14%, while the injury rate increased 88%. And so what they found is that without a balance to the roadway, there is more more problems observed through the expansion of the roadway. And so the objective of this study was to look at that road diet conversion. So the post-1990 road diet includes action. Johnny? This will help the visibility of the presentation, sorry. So in 2013, a report was published on the road diet evaluations. A road diet which has the center two-way left turn lane and one lane per direction. It compared before and after project sites for over 863 different projects. Their conclusion was that road diets can be effective for roads which between 5,000 and 24,000 vehicles per day. Little to no diversion was observed. The crash reduction percentage was 19 to 47%. The recommendations they also recommended signal coordination and other safety enhancements. And their overall conclusion was that it has the potential to meet community objectives while increasing safety at low costs. Here's a quick list of other communities which are looking at a road diet. There have been an enormous list of cities and municipalities that have done a road diet in their most vital roads. This is a list of communities that are having the same discussion we're having tonight. Is this a good decision? Why do we want to move forward? Do we need more balance to our roadway? And so here, ranging from the city of Pasadena to Colorado Boulevard, city of Davis, throughout the Bay Area, and other communities closer to the town of Paradise as well. So now, going from existing conditions to why a road diet was proposed in the corridor study, let's take a look at how this project is funded, and that's through the Highway Safety Improvement Program. And that program is a federally funded funding source which uses collision data to assign projects. And so with this project, we are proposing a $1 million total project, and we are proposing importing actual collision data that has happened on Skyway, and they have determined that this project is a fundable project and a good one to move forward with. This project was awarded in October of 2012 and has a 10% match requirement currently budgeted. So let's look at our project map and how the different countermeasures are proposed. First, countermeasure 1 has a 30% crash reduction factor, and that is the road diet between Pearson Road and Elliott Road. Countermeasure 2 is the signal coordination between Pearson and Elliott, and so the goal of that is to have the two signals communicating to each other, timed and synchronized, so if you have a green light at one and you travel the speed limit or the flow of traffic, there is a green light waiting for you at the next signal. Countermeasure 3 is the enhanced crosswalks, and that has a 35% crash reduction factor. And so again, in the downtown area, we're going from 7 uncontrolled crosswalks to 4 evenly spaced crosswalks. So again, the Skyway Corridor Study enables our HSIP funding, actually. And so using this reactive grant program that requires historical collision, it uses a calculation that directs funding to where it's needed and where it will be effective. And so this is a total project package based on 3 countermeasures: the road diet, the signal timing, and the install medians. This project isn't a pick and choose as far as that package, but this is the funding source that we have obtained. Project benefits, and so we'll transition from the actual grant to exactly why this is a good fit for the town of Paradise. Of the 4 priorities, including pedestrian safety, motorist safety, traffic operations, and downtown revitalization, I'll first discuss pedestrian safety. At Town Hall, we are looking at constructing ADA-compliant ramps and adding a refuge median island. And what that does is it decreases the distance the pedestrian has to cross at a time. They can start at one side of the street, clear the first 2 oncoming lanes, reach a refuge middle island, push a beacon again, and cross the final 2 lanes safely. And so that's a huge benefit for this crosswalk location. Last meeting, Councilmember Culleton brought up a great point that this current crosswalk location needs to be looked at again. And so I have an exhibit that will demonstrate where we should really take another look and provide an alternate recommendation for this crosswalk location. As far as evaluating left turns, we have about 8 different driveways to deal with here. And so with median islands, driveways can be problematic as far as left turns. So we want to make sure this is a smart decision. Our left turns are here in green for each driveway, and they will stay green if they are not impacted by the median island. And so you can see this graphic is a little confusing, but the essential is the arrow is green if it isn't impacted. And so when we have our proposed island at the existing crosswalk location shown here, we can see that we are impacting 3 left turns from businesses such as Rancho Engineering, Andy's Cafe, and also Town Hall. We also looked at relocating the crosswalk further south to the south property line, and we can see that it also has 2 red arrows, which means that those left turns are no longer feasible. While our proposed and our recommended alternative for council to consider is relocating the crosswalk to the north boundary line, which only impacts 1 left turn into a property which has 4 available driveways already. And so staff appreciates Councilmember Culleton bringing forward the opportunity to look into this further, and it's a change that we can make and look forward to recommending to council to move forward on. Here's a quick picture. I don't have the beacons flashing here, but you can picture the 3 beacon locations at the new crosswalk location where a pedestrian can formally signal their intent to cross. There won't be a confusion between are they waiting for a bus or are they looking across the street. So 3 opportunities where you only have to clear 1 lane or 1 direction at a time. And we really encourage pedestrians to make eye contact, clear each lane individually, never assume someone is going to yield for you. And we want to encourage motorists to yield to pedestrians per state law until a pedestrian completely crosses the street to the other side. Now looking at our downtown, we have a different proposal. It's similar, it has the beacons but no island, but we do propose the 2 crosswalk bulb outs. And what the bulb outs do is they shorten the crossing distance, which increases the visibility as well. And so if you're crossing the street, you're going to be out in the bulb out. If you're shopping around downtown, you won't be standing on a bulb out. And a quick note that this area is not decreasing the total road width. This is only occupying the same space that 1 parked vehicle would take up. And so our actual effective road width remains the same. And so we have the pedestrian flashing beacons, which increase yield rates, and we noted that 42% is what was observed back in 2008. These beacons have been proven to increase yield rates upwards of 80%. Here are our proposed crosswalk locations again, and we were asked to individually bring these back to council and report on why specific crosswalks were chosen and the engineering thought process behind each location. So our first of 4 enhanced crosswalks is at Honey Run Road in front of Danelaw Furniture and Skyway Antique Mall. This crosswalk location was chosen because it's close to businesses without off-street parking. It's evenly spaced from the traffic signal at Pearson, and it allows Honey Run traffic to move forward beyond the limit line for left turn clearance. For Skyway at Foster Road, again, it's very evenly spaced. It's close to the businesses without the off-street parking who need pedestrians to be able to use the parallel parking. And it has an existing streetlight overhead, and so that is a part of the project that we can retrofit the fixture from the high-pressure sodium, the orange light, to the brand-new LED with little effort and cost. And so that's a good location to keep. As far as the First Street crosswalk location, again, it's evenly spaced. We're about 250, 300 feet between crosswalks, so these are, again, evenly spaced. It also has an existing street light overhead, and this crosswalk complements the existing bus shelter location. We looked at the other side of First Street on the south end of this intersection, and it created problems when a bus would pull over to board pedestrians and obstructing visibility. And so we want to keep this crosswalk location as it is. Proposed design for Skyway at Wildwood Lane. This is a relocation. Currently today there is a crosswalk mid-block in front of Cozy Diner. We would like to shift this to add an intersection so it's more present and expected for a motorist to expect a pedestrian crossing at an intersection. So here is the proposed location, and it also allows us to add on-street parking, moving it to closer to a driveway further south at the corner of the intersection. Other pedestrian benefits with this project include in the downtown retrofitting our existing streetlights to LED, which have better color rendering, allows everybody to see a pedestrian wearing a yellow shirt rather than an orange one or a black one. They'll be more visible rather than everything looking the same color. We also will be adding 3 new streetlights, allowing all the crosswalks to have a streetlight overhead, making sure that pedestrians are illuminated when they're crossing the street. Another component of the project, again, gets back to our existing infrastructure, is the 23 curb returns that can be upgraded to ADA compliance. And so that'll help mobility in our downtown for wheelchair access and those with other disabilities. Moving on to motorist safety in the downtown. Here's a photograph of the existing conditions and our proposed road diet with 1 lane in each direction. The available turn lane has the ability to reduce collision conflicts by getting rid of that common left turn hazard exhibited here. We have a motorist waiting for a left turn in the through lane, and this is something that happens on a daily occurrence, and there's been 3 similar collisions in the last 30 or 40 days just based off of this. And we have 2 same direction vehicles approaching. The first collision type is a rear end collision, and the second is a sideswipe same direction collision. Now, when we reduce the number of lanes for a road cross section, we can see that the collision conflicts are reduced also. Here's a graphic representation at an intersection where a 4-lane undivided road on the left has 8 collision conflicts, and that's just motorist on motorist. It doesn't even factor in pedestrians. And with the 3-lane layout, we only have that same intersection only has 4 common collision conflicts. At mid-block locations, we go from 6 to 3. So the takeaway is that 50% of our collision conflicts can be removed by taking away 1 lane in each direction and adding that center 2-way left turn lane. As far as downtown, we can increase on-street parking, and we can do that by reducing the number of crosswalks. We talked about removing from 7 to 4. Well, a lot of that red curb has the potential to go away. Businesses like My Girlfriend's Closet, Positive Eye, I believe they have red curb from their entire property frontage. So this allows us to funnel pedestrians to the crosswalks with bulb outs where that red curb is no longer needed. So that's a huge benefit for the downtown as well. Again, if you've parked in the downtown today, you realize that there's about a 1-foot buffer when you open your door to oncoming traffic. Another benefit for this project is the installation of a wider buffer between 5.5 and 6 feet. And so that allows you to open your door more safely, and also has other benefits that we'll talk about too. But it provides a more balanced, safe feel to the roadway. Slower speeds. This project is proposed, and we can say with confidence it will reduce speeds in the downtown. Rather than that 40-mile-per-hour vehicle that wants to go as fast as they want to go just because they have a place to be, when the speed limit is 30 miles per hour, we understand that with this level of traffic on Skyway, that there will be a stream of cars, and those cars will be traveling close to the speed limit, and the option of going faster really is taken away and restricted, and as a result, safer. Emergency response. So this adding the center turn lane has some benefits for emergency response as well. Here's a layout of our existing road view. The effective road width, again, is between the parking, and so we can see that if we replace one parking spot with those bulb outs, the effective road width stays the same, just the stripes will be different on the road. As far as emergency response goes, that center 2-way left turn lane has the potential for emergency responders to overtake and get to their destination quicker than they can today in both directions. As far as collision traffic control, if there was an incident at the bulb out, that center turn lane serves as a benefit and a tool to route traffic around. Again, the striping is different, but the road width maintains the same. So any collision, whether it happens today, there is going to be an interruption and a disruption, versus if it happens tomorrow with a proposed project, there will be an interruption, but collision will be routed around safely. It's the same road width. Again, if the collision happened outside of the bulb out, you could have the potential to use parking area if it wasn't currently occupied to route them around that way too. So in this last month, since our last council presentation, we've had an emergency service agency coordination meeting, which was attended by Paradise Police Department, California Fire, California Highway Patrol, Butte County Office, Sheriff's Office, Butte County Emergency Medical Services, and Butte County Office of Emergency Management. And our takeaways from this project was that if we can reduce collision frequency and severity, that is a huge benefit to this project. The turn lane adds flexibility for response, and we will be continuously working with Butte County Office of Emergency Management for evacuation preparedness. We understand that 2 lanes southbound or northbound could be easily implemented at any time, and 3 lanes or contraflow could be implemented as well, but will require additional resources. But we continue and pledge to work with Butte County Office of Emergency Management on this issue. All agencies have responded. We asked them to report back to their agency, whether it be CHP or Butte County Sheriff's Office, and provide us some written feedback on the project, on how they, on their level of support. And all agencies that responded indicated their project support to move forward. And so at this time, I'd like to turn the lights on and ask Battalion Chief Curtis Lowry to come forward, who represents CAL FIRE, and also Paradise Police, Gabby Tazari Deneen, Chief of Police, to speak on this project and their benefits. I see we have Chief David Hawks instead.
Mr. Mayor and members of council, I have reviewed these plans in the project with our town engineer, and as a police department, I have to say that they have my full support. We are obviously always concerned about pedestrians in the downtown area or all over the town, and also collisions and safety for both pedestrians and drivers. I believe that this project will reduce collisions. I believe that it will be safer for our pedestrians. Our center lane will be better for our emergency responders when we're responding code 3 to an incident. And then also it would, again, reduce the rear end collisions. So they have my full support,
Will reduce calls for service.
which would be great.
Thank you, Chief.
Mayor Lauder, council members, David Hawks, CAL FIRE, Paradise Fire. We also, CAL FIRE, Paradise Fire, reviewed the project, safety project proposals, and we don't see any adverse effects to our response as well. Obviously, reducing the number of lanes down will reduce the potential for side impact collisions, which are where the higher level of impact collisions, the more risk results. Also believe that it'll be benefit for pedestrian safety, less likely to have incidents related to that. And we don't see any response effects to fire engines responding. They'll be able to navigate the center lane, which typically would be open, and when it's not, cars should be able to pull back to the right and allow us to get around that. So we don't see any adverse effects there. And we also don't see any adverse effects in terms of evacuation stuff. There's a lot of factors involved with that, but we believe that vehicles will be able to, working with the town and the traffic, Paradise PD and CHP will be able to effectively use that center lane for what we call contraflow. So.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Right. Thank you, Chiefs. So our next area of this presentation details the traffic operations and level of service. The town understands that this is the most vital road in the town of Paradise. And so our number one objective, in addition to pedestrian and motorist safety, is making sure it works and gets people to where they're going. So we actually hired Traffic Works of Chico to take a fresh look at that 2009 corridor study that made that recommendation. Their task was also to study current and future conditions, identify potential efficiency, input that proposed project that we are the road diet, and see what that does to capacity and travel times, and study the impacts using modeled and engineered calculations. Finally, their task was to determine ultimate feasibility and assist us in establishing expectations. So the first part of their project was to collect traffic data in the downtown and also at the intersections. So first, in our downtown, we know 20,500 vehicles per day. And just north of Wagstaff, continuing all the way up to town limits, we see that we have 10,000 vehicles per day. And so it's a fair point to make that 50% of our traffic is commuting from the Upper Ridge. And so that's part of the consideration in this process. Traffic volumes, what we found is that traffic volumes historically have grown, but over the last 10, 15 years, they've actually stabilized. And our Butte County Association of Governments traffic demand model shows no volume growth north of Elliott. But understanding this project needs to assume future growth, which we would all appreciate in this town, we assumed a 10% growth rate at some unknown year to be determined when it actually happens. So as far as intersection design, I'd like to take a quick moment to point out existing at Elliott and Skyway here, with north being up on the screen, and the proposed design. So we have 2 lanes southbound existing and 2 lanes northbound. The proposed design has a lane drop, which we have determined to be the safest transition rather than a south merge movement. And it includes 1 lane in each direction. And also a benefit of this project allows us to take this triangle, which we're all familiar with, where you yield to the both lanes coming north on Skyway. This becomes a free right, and where the 2 lanes actually don't start until this free right is complete from westbound Elliott to northbound Skyway. So that'll help. That's one of those efficiencies and tweaks that we can make to help this project work better. As far as intersection design at Pearson, really no major changes except for the reduction in lanes and that lane drop northbound at Pearson. But this right turn only becomes a right turn overlap phase, and what that means is when the light is green for traffic to come off of Pearson, we can keep this green light arrow green, so keep traffic moving from Skyway to Pearson. And so that, again, another efficiency for the project. As we discussed further earlier, the project includes coordinating the 2 traffic signals. While the coordination is great, the optimization is even better. And what that means is when we add time to serve Skyway and help get the traffic through, we can actually mitigate the reduction in capacity. Level of service is a unit of measure for how well an intersection is operating with letter grades A through F. Currently, the Pearson Skyway intersection operates at a B, and the proposed project keeps the level of service at a very good C, and the Elliott intersection operates from a C today versus a C in the future with the project. But we know that we can expect a modest delay, 9 to 10 seconds, during certain times of the day, and I'll have more on that in a second. But we do know that acceptable level of service in all engineering design is D or better, and that's a 55-second delay, which we are not nearly on that level with this project. Queue lengths, however, are something that will be very different. And a queue length is how long of a line will the cars waiting to get through the intersection, how much space will they occupy? So we do know from the models that we can expect moderate queues through the afternoon. Skyway is a very busy road. We can expect longer queues during the peak periods. We've done a model, which I'll show here in a slide, is that the highest queue modeled was 800 feet in the afternoon, peak 15 minutes. And what that is about, I think, between 5:45 and 6 p.m. At Pearson and Skyway. And so that's highlighted here in this table below that says this is the maximum queue the model has predicted, and this is the average queue. And the average queue is 460 feet. So it's really an acceptable queue length for the safety benefits we are proposing. So we have a couple of model simulations. Our first one is the peak AM 15 minutes at Elliott. And this model stems from all the data collection efforts that were undertaken by Traffic Works, with cameras and tubes on the road. Allows us to input into a software program that can predict exactly how this road will function. So this is the southbound direction, and here's the Elliott Road signal. And we see the light has turned red for through traffic, and you'll see that queue that we're talking about start to build up. But the most important point that I didn't make on the last slide is every queue that we've modeled clears in one signal cycle. And so we've all been there where you've been in a town where the traffic signal, you have to wait 2 or 3 cycles to get through, and how frustrating that can be. We can assure you with this project that that will not be a daily occurrence. So we know that the lines, they may be long, they don't mean the project isn't working, they actually just mean that they are how we predicted they would be. And so the next item is the peak PM 15 minutes, which is really the controlling factor. We know the peak afternoon at Skyway and Pearson is the longest line of cars. So here's the video, Pearson Road and Skyway. This is again at 4 times speed, so traffic will be flowing fluidly through the downtown in one lane. So that it'll zoom out here. Camera is zooming out, and here's Black Olive Drive. And again, that peak 15-minute period we predict will be around, the line will go almost to Black Olive. So when we watch this model and when the light turns green for Skyway, the important point is to see who was last in that line, and let's make sure that they get through the traffic signal in one cycle. Well, the merge can actually start. We actually feel that traffic will adjust and learn that that number 1 lane is for through, and if you want to turn right at Pearson, you'll be in the number 2 lane. But the actual signage and markings will start at Black Olive. So if it's not really a merge, it's a lane drop, and so if you pick your lane, you can do it at any point between Neil or even before Neil along Skyway. So the important point was that it does clear the actual volumes, but it's important to keep in mind what the worst 15 minutes of every day will look like. But our next video I'll show is the off-peak hours at these 2 traffic signals, and what's the more common occurrence going to be like. Because a long line during the most busy period that gets you through in the green, in one green, is not it's acceptable. It's kind of a decision we're aware of, but we understand that the safety benefits are there. And so here is an off-peak hour, which is more typical that the line would be definitely under 300 feet. Not very exciting because it runs very efficiently and fluidly. So these cars traveling through the intersection kind of as a line, when they get to Elliott, there will be a green light waiting for them. So rather than stopping for 2 traffic signals, they're just stopping for 1 now. Off-peak at Elliott. May just cut this one short, but and not much going on. That the project benefits during these off-peak hours. This last video was something that was asked to be from our last presentation to council back in February. We were asked, well, what does a pedestrian crossing do to that peak 15 minutes? Say somebody pushed the beacon and the yield flashing signals come on, and how does that affect the oncoming traffic? And so this video, it's a little hard to see, but it does require traffic to stop, and by the time the pedestrian gets to the other side of the street, it hasn't even begun to impact the traffic coming through the signal. The distance between the 2 crosswalks and the traffic signal is over 400 feet, and so we are confident that pedestrian crossings during the peak 15 minutes will not be a major interruption to traffic flow. Okay. So moving forward, we're still talking about motorist impacts and benefits on the downtown with this project. We understand the side streets will be impacted. We'll have safer left turns from Skyway with the center turn lane, but we'll have fewer gaps to make that turn. Many people come to us today and say, well, it's already hard for us to turn left. Well, That's because you're clearing 3 lanes, essentially 2 coming down at you and 1 coming up the other way. And so when you have a center turn lane, you can only really have to clear 1 lane. You look left, you can clear that lane, and you'll have that center turn lane to make a left turn in 2 stages. And here's an exhibit that shows that movement from Foster, left turn to the refuge center turn lane, and then your second stage left turn is to the southbound lane. So now let's take a look at the project travel times. Many people were concerned about their daily commutes to work or from work, picking up kids. We understand that time is important, and we did not want to bring forward a project that negatively impacted the amount of time it takes you to get from point A to point B. And so what this exhibit shows is travel times along Skyway between Neil Road and Billy Road. And in the northbound AM peak hour, the models show that there will be a 3-second increase in travel time. In the southbound AM peak hour, it shows that there can actually be an 11-second decrease. And you may ask, how is that possible to decrease the actual time while you're taking away lanes? Well, it gets back to our point on the signal coordination, not stopping for 2, but just for 1 to get to your destination. The northbound PM peak hour with that 800-foot queue that we will see has a 13-second increase. The southbound PM peak hour has a 9-second increase. And I've been telling people the same thing. Engineering is showing that the increase is 13 seconds or less. And I'd love to say you can get out with your stopwatch after this project moves forward, and if you are delayed 13 seconds or more, let me know. But I can't say that. But I will say is that the scale of delay on this project is on the scale of seconds, not minutes or tens of minutes or traffic lines to Chico. This is a proven design that will work, and with the right treatments and the signal coordination, the project can be completed successfully. So our last component on project priorities is downtown revitalization. We know that we will be able to improve pedestrian and vehicular access to businesses. We know that we can improve and increase parallel parking. Today, we did a survey of available space where a vehicle could park in the downtown between Pearson and Elliott. And we know those spaces aren't marked. And so if we have 40 feet of area that is not red curb and 1 car parks in the middle of that 40 feet, well, you just took up 2 parking spaces for that 1 business. And so if everyone parked exactly perfectly today, we'd have 60 spaces. Well, with this project, we can increase available parking to 78 marked spaces. We also know that this project will slow down traffic in the downtown and will create a more balanced, pedestrian-friendly shopping environment. This project also includes a road overlay to address our aging road and major issues in the downtown that will also have a beautification effort. Having a nice black road with fresh striping looks really good, and it can start this public investment in the downtown can start a conversation, at least a private revitalization as well. So that's something to consider moving forward for the business community as well. A quick exhibit that was interesting to me was that lower speeds enable driver to focus more on the surroundings, and I think this is really important for safety as well as businesses. So motorists can see what they actually are and what they're selling. Higher speeds, however, 30 miles per hour, decrease your focus while you're driving. So that's just an important point between the two. Public outreach. We understand this project has the potential to fundamentally transform the downtown, and so we understand we want to move forward with a public outreach effort that solicits comments and input and opportunities for changes. So we have had, from our last September pedestrian safety workshop, numerous council meetings, presentations to groups that have invited us. So if you're aware of a group that we haven't talked to, shoot us an email and we'll get something arranged. And so we have our council meeting tonight. Our public workshop for our safety-focused workshop is March 20th between 6 and 8 p.m. here at Town Hall. We'll bring this again back to council for an update in April. We're really focused on making this a community decision and talk about what this project means. And then in April, we are looking for council to consider project approval. Did I say April? In May. Thank you. So a quick note on business workshop results. We did a survey of all the attendees, and we found that 75% of the people do not feel safe walking in the downtown. 50% do not feel safe driving through the downtown. They indicated that their top priorities were the high observed speeds, that pedestrian crossings were a very great concern, and the overall safety of the downtown corridor. Now, of these people that were surveyed, 100% believed that change is needed, and that's pretty astounding to think a group of 30 people can all agree on one thing, that what we have today is not working and something needs to change. 80% of the audience indicated some level of project support. Media coverage to date, here's a quick list. If you haven't heard about this project by now, it might be hard because it's been on many numerous media outlets, including Action News, Paradise Post, KRCR, and radio. So again, if you haven't heard about this project or you know somebody who wants to learn more, please contact the Town of Paradise and we'd be glad to schedule an individual appointment or a group presentation. And here's our public website, townofparadise.com. You'll see this logo up front and visible at the top of the page. And I really encourage people who are interested in learning more to visit the reference section. This has every downloadable document on this project, from the corridor study to the news articles to the videos that we showed and the presentations we've been giving. So I encourage you to take a look at that. So let's close on a couple of items. I've been asked, will it work? And so that question is an important one, because we need to know what will it work means. What do we mean when we say work? Well, it gets back to how this grant is funded and how this project is geared towards, and that's 100% safety. We know that reduced collision frequency and severity is our number one goal in how we will define success on this project. Our also consideration of will it work is traffic operations. We'll look to optimize flow. We'll be attentive to peak hour commutes and allow time for adjustments. This is not going to be a project that works exactly how we would like it on day one. In fact, it might be quite the opposite. And the first couple of weeks, maybe even months, would require an adjustment period. But we are confident that with the proven engineered countermeasures proposed, that this is a good decision for the town. And lastly, measure success with increasing parking, access, and supporting that private investment. So that was a lot of information. I really appreciate you listening and hoping to just work on my things. Of course, we know that, again, as the business workshop said, that what we have today is not working. Evidenced by the collision data, evidenced by the vacancy rate, and days Skyway between groups and others is not working. And so with the secure grant funding, we've been asked, okay, is this project just just moving forward to bring our tax dollars back to the Town of Paradise? Because that's what driving this project is. No, this project is the absolute best design. We have a good road with how is that right balance between pedestrian bicycle shoppers, cars, and destinations. It's perfect design, but this is the best design. And so we want to thank you for
Anybody in the audience have a question if you want to come
Cards on
Do we have a couple cards? Okay. Sure.
First card is from Ron Cushman.
I have some concerns I would like to address. My concerns are 50% of these problems that we have are speed. We've known this since 2009. What have we done since 2009 to address the speed, to address the accidents we can save? I think we did it. We have a police department that is overstaffed. I understand there's only police departments. Would have been something that we would have been able to try to get a grant to address the speeding. The speeding not only seems to be to change all of the speed limits, plenty of intersections. asking these folks to merge at speed, and perhaps in the dark and the rain. And perhaps that, in and of itself, should be a concern for us. If you can't see the car in front, how are you going to see the cars at night in the rain? A lot of folks up here aren't the youngest folks around. This is and part of these rear ends is a little inattention. When you start merging these people, and that last person gets to the last place they can merge, and they stop because they get scared, who's going to get rear ended? 2 or 3 cars behind them. Now, people going home, they're a little upset about this. You think they're going to let every other person get in? I lived my whole life, except for the last 7 years, watching people merge. They don't like being merged on, and especially when they're going home. So they ride the bumper. What does that do? That gives a little road rage to the guy next door. So what's going to happen? You're going to fly up on Pierce, look for an opening, and cut somebody off. So are we exchanging one set of problems for the problems we have in the list?
I need to let you know you get 3 minutes, and you're right at the mark. So if you
One
could
last
wrap it up,
thing.
I'd appreciate it.
One last thing. This proposal has the potential to remove 7 standard vehicle-to-vehicle conflicts. 7. We're spending $1 million, Mark's words, 7 vehicle-to-vehicle conflicts. We're going to change downtown for that. If we want to beautify downtown, I would suggest we get architectural control of streets. You wanted some feedback from people? Ask your friends. Asking the 30 business owners what they think is asking Colonel Sanders that we'd like some more chickens. Ask your friends what they think. I did. One of them said, Ron, we had it that way. We changed it. Why did we change it?
Hey, can you wrap up, because we do have
I'm gonna
got
wrap
other
up.
cards
I
after this.
really appreciate
And I would
it.
encourage you to come to the next workshop and certainly talk to Mark, and he can answer your questions.
Well, I think I want to address you folks that are voting on it. It's not up to Mark has done his job, and he's done a wonderful job. I'm addressing you folks that are making a decision. Thank you for your time.
Next card.
Johnny Ferris.
Hello, I'm Johnny Ferris, Brindle Circle. I'm opposed to this project because I don't believe in restricting traffic. I believe traffic should flow free. I'm sorry, I don't see good. I'm trying to read my own writing. I will slower traffic, like running 20,000 cars in half the lane that normally would run in that same period of time. I think it will have more collisions, and I am a collision expert. I'm certified for the state of California as such. Accidents are caused because people can't get around. One good example. My wife was on Elliott Road just before you get to Clark. The school bus was there, flashing red lights, all the signs out, letting kids off. Some old guy, I'd like to call him after me, he was too old to die. He didn't see the bus, he didn't see the flashing red lights, and he hit the back end of my new truck going about 30, 45 miles an hour to go set the There will be no dodging. If you try to go left into that turn lane, vehicle pulling up and stopping the other way, you nail it, you're right there on the east side of the road, causing a collision. If you think, well, I'll swing right, you get parked car, you're just sitting in that center lane, hopefully you don't have your wheels turned at all. You get rear-ended sitting in that center lane, and it knocks you into the other lane, you will be cited because of the accident. You may not be cited for the guy that hit you, but you're responsible for the one you hit. I challenge this project to, unannounced, let's block off one lane going up Skyway, one going down in between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. And I will donate my time just to help any way I can. I think we'll see the real situation by doing that. Between Pearson and Ellie.
Because we're at your time limit. You get 3 minutes. So if you can wrap up, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. Then I think we would be wiser to figure out a way to use this money to fix some of the other streets in town. Sawmill Road for one. I don't like to drive on it, and I hope anybody that comes to visit me will not get turned around and get on this. Thank you very much for your time.
The next card is from Mr. Ward Haverhill.
Thank you. Good evening, Council, Mr. Mayor.
And just remember, you get 3 minutes.
Thank you,
Work.
sir. I'm sure you'll keep me to it.
Yes.
Normally I like to stand up here and praise something, give adoration about the good things that are going on in our town, and that's not the case tonight. I do appreciate, however, the improvements and the changes that Mark has added to his presentation. I think that's very helpful to have the additional information. But what really got me dismayed was that there was a public safety services statement given to our distinguished post person here that said the public safety services were all on board with this lane project. And I'm not going to call anybody a liar, but I think that's very deceptive, that statement, especially since I know some that definitely do not agree. And what I'm going to provide to you tonight is a list of signatures, approximately 3 dozen. Which took about 15 minutes to collect. These represent people from all walks of life, but it also includes an attorney from the DA's office, plus police, fire, several VIPS representatives from the town of Paradise. Also, a university provost, business owners, commuters, retired folks, shoppers, and about 3 dozen folks that are just a basic cross-section of our town. These are the pages that are just for getting signatures. There's no detail here. It's just the signatures below object to the town changing Skyway from 4 lanes to 2 lanes, and the reference is Downtown Safety Project, Agenda Item 7C. And of course, anybody that asks, I say, it's on their website, look it up. And I know that there's other pages going around. Here's another dozen signatures.
Yeah,
And I
give
guess
us
there's
your-
more coming. I'll repeat my previous statement. The engineer said, and repeated it again tonight, there's 2 main reasons for traffic incidents on Skyway caused by excessive speed and following too close. Those are human behaviors, poor human behaviors, and we don't do anything to address that in this project. Human behaviors we can address with police enforcement, driver training, etc. Nobody has asked for more police to enforce traffic laws. Not this council this year, not last year's council, not before. And yet, our chief will admit we don't have a very good staff for traffic patrol. That's what this issue is about, traffic safety. I don't think spending $1 million is right, especially when you say, well, it's grant money, and the grant was funded, and, well, where'd the funding come from? A traffic mitigation fund. Well, where'd they get the money? They got it from me. I'm a taxpayer. I don't think it's right to spend taxpayer money on this project. Others, maybe. This one, no.
Okay, if you can wrap up, Ward.
Yep.
Thank you.
We've elected you to be the stewards of our money. I don't think this is good stewardship. I'm ashamed. I voted for you, and if you pass this project, I won't again.
My next card is Linda Linda Horton Lyons.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here on 7C on the Paradise Safety Project. As I have been talking about it to others in our community, they have been nervous and concerned about the bottleneck coming at the peak times, and that they would be looking at different routes to go down Clark, Bushman, avoiding the whole area, which would take business away from our downtown. I know we are looking at safety, but case in point on the Pearson project, because I was bringing up the Skyway, they were going, by the way, since it's been happening, as you get over the hill by Scottwood during the morning commute, there is such a chain gang you can't cross. You can't get to the preschool on Scottwood. You can't get to work at the Scottwood. There is no way to get back and forth because the black olive light is backing up that way also. Now, I did talk to Mark tonight, and we addressed that. We're hoping to look into it, and hopefully you can set up cameras. This also is happening down by the school, by Dolly O's. It's impacting back and forth. That if we have these type of issues, what is our way that we can address them and know that you can reverse it, and can we have it in writing that you will take our concerns to heart, because this is impacting us long term. If that is possible, I think we'd be a lot happier. Thank you.
That's my last card.
Okay. Did we have anybody else that didn't have an opportunity to fill out a card that wanted to come forward and speak? If Pat, come forward, state your name for the record.
I'm Pat Zinn. I'm an antique dealer here in town. And I think all of you will agree that that's kind of a cottage industry up here. Brings in probably a good amount of taxes. I'm a dealer at Skyway Antique Mall, and we're very concerned, this is right in the middle of the project, and that people are going to turn and go down Clark, or go down Pearson to get to Clark, and it's going to take away business from our and the other businesses in town. And so there's a group there that really are not looking forward to this project going forward. So please think about it. Thank you.
Did we have anybody else that wanted to come forward and speak? Okay, I will close the public comment portion on that item, and this is only it's informational, so there's no vote or anything being taken tonight. We will continue to have the workshops, and thank you for attending and listening to the presentation. And as Mark Maddox said, if you have questions, comments, if you have groups that would like to see the presentation, get a little bit of a better understanding of what's going on, Mark is available. Anybody on the council have any comments that they'd like to make?
I'd like to commend Mark for the thoroughness with which he addressed all of the questions that came up at the last council meeting. I think he did a really good job.
And the only thing I'd like to add would be that, like, for those of you that are against this, and there's we have some lists here, that next meeting that's later this month, I absolutely encourage you, if you know a number of people that are against it, fill this room, overflow this room, because that's the only way we're going to know, what's really going on, is if the people show up. The staff has done an excellent job coming up with a solution to a problem, but if the community is that, as some of you are indicating tonight, if the majority of the community is that much against this, it's not a done deal yet, but they need to show up. So,
yeah.
It's important that we know what we're talking about. it's easy to sign something, and I
Yeah,
appreciate
and a lot
that.
of people sign and haven't seen the presentation.
Haven't seen the
I'm glad all of you
presentation.
stayed.
That's
and
important. Yeah, thanks for staying. Appreciate it.
Okay. Anything else from the staff on this? Okay. Then we will move on to our public hearing, which is item 5A, and the public hearing procedure is outlined in 4. I'll take a break here, or I'll wait. I'll pause so those people that want to exit can. And thank you for coming, folks. Early that I think there was a lot of people here to see and hear that. That's good. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad that we could do that, and then it's good for people to see the full program, whether you're for or against. But at least you're fully informed, which is better than most people can say they are. Okay, so tonight we have a public hearing, 5A, conduct a public hearing relating to an appeal to the Town Council of a Planning Commission interpretation, finding that a proposed gate across a private road access easement does not constitute a violation of the town zoning ordinance regulations prohibiting the establishment of fences in access easements, and that's Paradise Municipal Code Section 17.06.600. And after the close of the hearing, consider 1, adopting the zoning code interpretation recommended by the staff, or we could consider rejecting the interpretation or adopt an alternative interpretation or directive to staff. Madam Manager?
And tonight this item will be presented by Craig Baker, our Community Development Director. Craig?
Can we have you move the microphone a little bit closer so that people at home can hear you? They can't see you. I think that's probably better, yeah, as long as we're close enough. It should be on, so. Not on now.
There we go. There we go. There we go.
Okay. Thank you.
So as you just indicated, this appeal is of a Planning Commission interpretation, finding that a proposed gate across a private road access easement would not constitute a violation of town zoning ordinance regulations prohibiting the establishment of fences in access easements. On February 10th, 2014, Mr. John Romalia submitted a written request to the town to have the Planning Commission provide an interpretation of zoning regulations as they apply to something like a gate or even a fence across a public, or rather a private access easement. On February 18th, Planning Commission considered Mr. Romalia's request, and after soliciting testimony from the public, adopted the following interpretation. A proposed access gate across a private road access easement does not constitute a violation of town zoning ordinance regulations prohibiting the establishment of fences in access easements. Subsequently, on February 20th, 2014, a neighboring property owner, Dana and Denise Bettis, owners of property upon which the gate is proposed to be established, filed a written appeal to the Town Council and asking the Town Council to find that a closed gate does indeed, across an access easement, is equivalent to a fence and should be therefore prohibited by the town in this case. Paradise Municipal Code Section 17.06.600 has the following text in it. No fences shall be installed within public or private rights-of-way or access easements. The purpose of that regulation is to provide free access to parties that have interest in private access easements and to ensure their uninhibited use of the access easements to which they have interest. On this point, your legal counsel, Attorney Dwight Moore, provided a legal opinion that said, based on the contents of Paradise Municipal Code 17.06.600, it is my opinion that a gate could be considered the equivalent of a fence which cannot be installed within a private right-of-way or access easement. Your town attorney's opinion is also reinforced by a second legal opinion that's attached in your materials from a second private attorney, Mr. Doug Thorne. One of the issues at hand is that there is no definition of a fence or a gate in our municipal code. And the municipal code definition section directs that any words not defined are to be defined as set forth in current dictionaries. Consulting the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, current version, a fence is described as a structure like a wall built outdoors, usually of wood or metal, that separates two areas or prevents people or animals from entering or leaving. Conversely, a gate is defined as an opening in a wall or fence. Attorney and staff believe that it's reasonable to regard the proposed gate as functionally equivalent to a fence, or a portion thereof, certainly when it's closed. In other words, a gate serves the same purpose as a fence, which is something that we should look at when we're looking at the purpose and intent of any ordinance or regulation. Gate prevents free access. It's functioning as a fence, simply a fence that can be opened. While it's clear that Mr. Romalia does have access easement to his property, he has the rights to access his property through this easement. His access rights do not impliedly allow the placement of a gate, certainly not within the easement on the property of others without their expressed consent. Hopefully you've had a chance to review the materials that have been provided to you. Staff's part and the part of your legal counsel, we've attempted, perhaps successfully or unsuccessfully, to avoid many of the peripheral issues that you may hear about tonight and try to focus on the substance of the original request for an interpretation, the Planning Commission's interpretation, the Planning Commission's adopted finding, and the actual substance of the appeal that's before you this evening. I have a single exhibit. May clarify some questions. The access easement in question runs through 3 properties. First property owned by the appellant, second property owned by this party, Johnson Beneke, and the third parcel owned by Alamer, funded by Mr. John Romalia. The proposed access gate is in this location. There is no gate on the easement at the moment. This is the proposed location for an access gate located approximately 500 feet from Alamer's property. We believe that Mr. Romalia does have other options that we would have absolutely no quarrel or problem with, and that would be to put the gate on the in a location at the end of the easement, protecting his property, in a location where it doesn't restrict anyone's access to any easement to which they might have a legal interest. We continue to agree with our legal counsel's opinion and are recommending that you uphold this appeal and reverse the Planning Commission's interpretation. Then provided a finding that can accommodate that, but I need to add that you can reject the appeal, support the Planning Commission's decision by simply changing 3 words in that proposed finding, much like was done at the Planning Commission hearing on this matter. Third option would be for this council to provide an alternative direction to staff or an alternative interpretation of that section in our municipal code. So that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that I can. I know there are a number of people here tonight who would care to speak on this.
Before we get going, I'd like Mr. Moore, our counsel, to...
Mayor, members of the council, whenever you review a law, you're trying to determine what the intent of it is. Paramount way. Why do you have it there? If you have a prohibition against a fence being installed within an easement, public or private, there's got to be a reason for that provision to be there. The reason is to prevent any kind of obstruction flow of traffic or persons through that. Otherwise, it makes no sense to have it there. It's not for beautification purposes. It's there to control or prevent people from stopping the flow of traffic. The fact that someone calls a thing a gate does not change it. Whatever you call a thing doesn't change it in the law. What does it do? Does it do the same thing that you're prohibiting? In this instance, if you put a gate across this area where there's a private easement, you have prevented people from having free access. And the only difference is it'll open. Versus a fence that is fixed and stationary and permanent. So to deal with it based upon not the real job that you have before you. It is to determine whether or not it substantially does the same thing that a fence would do. If you put a gate across the property. You've been given a large amount of information concerning the easement issues that are involved in a court case between property owners. That has no bearing on your zoning regulation, dealing with a zoning issue, not with whether or not there's a valid easement. Zoning and private real property rights sometimes crisscross and conflict. The town didn't have a regulation across a public easement area. The private rights would maybe stop it from being in. We don't have anything to do with that. We're not involved in private property rights. So this situation is such that we need to maybe examine in the future amending this law to make it clear how it applies to gates. Because that seems to be the issue. It just goes with fences, and some people determine that a fence. I read the definition. It said that a gate is an opening within a fence. So it was tied to a fence. Most fences have gates. Something or people. But it's the same thing.
Questions of Mr. Moore or Mr. Baker from the... So, since it is a hearing, or I guess it's the same as a public hearing. It is a public hearing, so we need to open it up. I'm not going to read you the rules from the public hearing procedure, but it's 15 minutes time limit for everybody. That is 15 minutes for total for time limit for those against. And then when requested, we allow 3 minutes per speaker for a total of 15 minutes for rebuttals, and then we will close the public hearing. Now, in this case, who goes first? Is it the person appealing that goes? The person that appeals is going to lead off. So, Mr. and Mrs. Bettis are here. Are their representative that forward? Are they ready to come forward and? If you can identify yourself for the record and for those at home.
My name is Dana Bettis. I own the property at 6479 Gregory Lane that the easement goes through.
that microphone on? Because it sounds kind of weak. I don't know if you can.
My name is Dana
Okay,
Bettis.
that's better. Yeah.
I own the property at 6479 Gregory Lane that involves the easement. It goes through my property. And I'm just going to read my appeal on this. We, Dana Bettis and Denise Bettis, owners of the residence located at 6479 Gregory Lane in Paradise, California, appeal the Town of Paradise Planning Commission decision on February 18, 2014. Of published agenda item 6B. We are appealing this matter to the Town of Paradise. We ask the Council reverse this decision to the Town Planning Commission to allow a locked electric gate to be placed across a non-exclusive easement road without the permission of the underlying landowner. Paradise Municipal Code 1706-600EA states, no fences shall be installed within a private right-of-way or access easements. Previously, both the Town of Paradise community developer Craig Baker and the Town of Paradise Dwight Moore attorney interpreted the municipal code as prospectively prohibiting construction of a locked gate across a non-exclusive easement and without the prior written permission of an underlying landowner. It is our position that a locked electric gate across a non-exclusive easement road is effectively a fence, a structure, even if it opens and closes. The current Town of Paradise Municipal Code does not define what constitutes a fence or a gate. Black Law Dictionary defines a fence as a hedge, structure, or partition erected for the purpose of enclosing a piece of land, to divide a piece of land into distinct proportions, or to separate two contiguous estates intended to prevent intrusion from without. The current Webster Merriam Dictionary defines a fence as a structure like a wall built outdoors, usually of wood or metal, that separates two areas and prevents people or animals from entering or leaving. The vast majority of non-exclusive easements in the Town of Paradise are open for free ingress and egress. Those do not have a locked gate are because they are CC&Rs, allow for a locked gate or permission of the underlying landowner. We are not trying to outlaw locked gates because locked gates already built to be removed. We are merely asking the Town Council to clarify the municipal code so that all future installations of locked electric gates are not located on the end of the person wanting to install the gate, on the land of the person located on the land of the person wanting to install the gate by the written permission of the underlying landowner. This is a certainly reasonable request. Therefore, we respectfully ask the City Council to interpret Municipal Code 1706-600EA respectively from the date of the City Council hearing on this matter on forward as prohibiting construction of a locked electric gate across the non-exclusive easement without the prior written permission of the underlying landowner. John does not own my land. He has no title to my land. He has a right to do something, and that something is to go through it to get to his land. And what he's trying to do is build things all over my land. He doesn't own the land. He has no right to build a great big rock concrete structure, which is what he's trying to do, on my property. I own that property, and I didn't buy that property with the purpose of providing him with security. It's not my problem. He owns property. He can put a gate on his own property, not on mine. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Does anybody have a question of Mr. Bettis before he's... Okay, thank you, Mr. Bettis. Okay.
Okay, I have a total of 5 cards, which included Mr. Bettis. And
okay, I just want to make sure on the procedure, because it's been... Yeah, so is there anybody else that's here in support of Mr. Bettis's position? Because I believe, isn't that how we have to do it, Dwight?
Yes,
take that.
please.
So if there's somebody else that wants to come forward and speak about that, please step forward and state your name for the record. Yeah. So this is in support of, and just state your name for the record.
My name is Gene Mappin. I'm basically talking as a neutral party in this case. I am supporting Mr. Bettis, but This is a neutral item I'm bringing up. On that code 17.06.600E.4, it says no fences shall be installed within public or private right-of-way or access easements. There are many roads. If you drive up and down the roads of Paradise, you see many fences real close to easements. It doesn't say across easements. It says within easements. So anywhere you go, you can see a road within 5 feet, 10 feet within the easement itself. So I think that this item should be, like somebody recommended before, there should be a new interpretation for it, drawn up, clarify it. Because it doesn't say perpendicular to the easement, it doesn't say parallel to the easement, it says within the easement. So it's the whole thing needs to be rewritten and rethought out, as Mr. Moore mentioned before.
All right.
Thanks.
Hold that thought. Anybody else in support of Mr. Bettis's position? Thank you. If you...
My name is Cheryl Johnson, and I've never addressed anything like this before, town council, the mayor.
Welcome.
And I'm somewhat nervous. But let me just say, I picked up a packet and looked at what was being talked about tonight. And I have a question of you all. Has anybody been down to where John Ramalya wants to put this gate?
Yes.
Have y'all seen what's going on down there? Because I think it's really imperative to know where this gate is and what it does to other people's lives. There are 3 other people who are being greatly impacted by this fence. He wants to make this look like an estate's drive up to this squalor mess. The Johnsons and the Benekes, I've been to their home. They have to look at this most disgusting slum I have ever seen from all windows in their home. They spent over $300,000 to buy a beautiful home and remodel it and make it their home to live in. This is ruining their home. Mr. Ramalya talks about dumping $100,000 into this project of his, if you can call it that. It looks more like a dump site. The Johnsons have, I bet you, $400,000 in theirs. And the Bettises, 30, 40 years have lived there. This is not right to allow one person to put a gate and equate it to gates on Valley View, Redbud, and other quality establishments that have been built by Bolin, by Wentland, and others. It is just not the same thing at all. We are not comparing apples to apples. And as far as the gate and all of that goes, that all needs to be, I completely agree with you. The way that it's written does not make sense. And I believe that Mr. Ramalya is bringing this to the town to help benefit his court case, go to court and say, the town council said I could put this gate in here. Our town okayed this gate. And that's why he was the one who started all of this, asking you, does a gate constitute a fence, and does a fence constitute a gate? He's looking for ammo to take to court so that he can take this to court and say, the town says this is okay. This is strictly my opinion, but it comes from very good source. I'm watching it. I see it. Look up his criminal background. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else speaking in favor of the Bettis's appeal? Okay. So then with that, I will move to the opponent, I guess, of the appeal. Elamar, Mr. Ramalya. Board, and you know the ground rules. I'm going to tell you that briefer is always better.
Yeah, I understand that. And, God, how do I follow that?
State your name for the record,
John
sir.
Ramalya. I'm here representing Alamer Investment tonight. First of all, I thought this was concerning the definition of a fence and a gate. I don't know what the last lady had to do with a fence or gate, but we're past that. As soon as I saw the agenda, it appeared to be slanted. Every municipal operation or any appeal, usually the first thing that it lists is affirm the decision of the Planning Commission. it wasn't even put in there. That gets you nervous right off the get-go. Second thing is there are 41 gates in easements in this town. A person has the right to, when looking at a definition, to look at past practices. I read some of these legal opinions. Susan has a German Shepherd. It's a dog. I have a Dalmatian. It's a dog. Therefore, that doesn't mean that a German Shepherd is a Dalmatian because they're both dogs. You talk about barriers, fences, gates. They aren't the same. As far as the trying to get advantage on the legal side, I wasn't the one that filed the lawsuit. Bettis was. His suit, the majority of it per his attorney, is based on what he heard from Mr. Baker in that a gate is a fence. It all boils down to that. My position was based on that a gate is not a fence. I'd ask you guys to rule with the Planning Commission. We've got a May trial date on the gate issue. Something the state law says reasonableness in improvements within an easement. This is not an ingress and egress easement. This is a road easement. Roads come with other things, whether it's guardrails, street lights, limits for access. It's different than just an ingress and egress easement. The Forest Service has fought that in overtime. This case has over 700 pages of documents in litigation. On our side, $35,000 worth, $50 a page. For us to have 3 minutes to address all this,
But
it can't be done.
No, you have 15 minutes total.
Well, yeah, but it still, like it makes a difference. We got
We're
3
only
days
talking
to
about a
run.
fence or a gate.
And I understand that. And that's, the judge set a half day to hear that. I would like to see this either no action or affirm the Planning Commissions, and that's just part of it. The judge is going to weigh the burdens, both sides. I know some of you live on the canyon side, deal with garbage being dumped, people trying to get down the hill. I think we're entitled to some privacy. I would like to see the judge, being properly briefed, make this decision. And a fence and a gate are not the same. Thank you.
Any questions from Mr. Amalia from council? Okay. Do we have some other cards?
Cards remaining. I have a card from Dan Wentland.
Olin is you're limited to 3 minutes.
Try to talk fast. Simply, I'm representing the planning.
State your name for the record.
You already said it, but Dan Wentland, okay? Thank you, I'm sorry. Council staff, thank you. I'll talk as fast as I can. Not having read your packet, I don't know how thoroughly it was explained what transpired at the Planning Commission meeting, but the reason I'm speaking is just to hit a couple of the high points. We, too, spent a lot of time reading the various descriptions in all of the dictionaries, and it's trying to decide, is a gate, is a fence, and finally we decided a gate is a gate and a fence is a fence. I need to make sure that it's very clear that in our decision, even though we all knew parties involved, we had to separate that. The decision that I made that night on the Planning Commission, I would have made it if it had been my mother that was involved, because we had to separate personalities. I have friends that are involved in this, and it hurts, but we had to make a decision, based on the law. I had never heard the number of gates, but one of the points that I was going to make was my wife exercises all over town, walks and rides a bicycle a tremendous amount, and I asked her one evening, tell me where gates are. And after we got to about 16, I said, that's all I need, because I know of at least 6 or 8 or 10 that it's problematic. It's potentially a problem that if you call a fence a gate or a gate a fence, what's going to happen with the potential for lawsuits, all the ordinances, all of the gates all over town that all of a sudden become a fence. I would love to see some of these other gates open across town. There are multiple roads through between Pence and Clark that are all gated all the way up in the line. I'd love to have them open so we wouldn't have to go all the way down, all the way up, but that was part of the issue in case that was not addressed. I got a small quote. Abraham Lincoln, something he used to enjoy saying. If you call a dog's tail a leg, how many legs does a dog have? Invariably, his audience would respond, 5. No, he politely responded. The correct answer is 4. Calling a tail a leg does not make it a leg. So it was a tough issue that we had to deal with that night. And in case it did not cover it in the packet, those are some of the situations that we had to deal with. It's hard. We feel bad about making a decision against friends, but we didn't think that changing the definition of a gate to a fence was going to aid anything around the town in regards to potential future problems. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wendland.
And my last card is from Alan White.
Who?
Yeah, first, Alan White, I'd like to apologize for wearing the Cal State Long Beach baseball shirt that I'm wearing. Didn't dawn on me. I'm a little torn on this. I am speaking in favor of affirming the decision of the Paradise Planning Commission. I agree 99% with the property owners who are affected on this. I think the challenge is in the Paradise Municipal Code. I have sent a letter to all of you, it's a public record, suggesting that either the code be amended to define and allow for gate with the concurrence of all the property owners involved, or alternately removing the code section altogether, letting it become a civil issue, which is what it ought to be. This is neighbors dealing with neighbors, and it's unfortunate that we have to be involved, and I'm not going to point a finger. I don't know whose fault that is. I just hope that if a gate was the same thing as a fence, when you looked it up in Webster's or Merriam-Webster, as this case is, it would suggest, it'd say when you looked up gate, it would say C fence. It doesn't. They're different things. And I agree. Dan's comments were spot on. If this is not allowed, first of all, I can now drive through Puddle Duck Court and connect through on Cypress Lane because I don't want that gate to be there. It stops travel through Paradise. I would hope that the council would, number one, affirm the decision of the Planning Commission, or alternately refund the appellant's money on both issues and let them slug it out in court. They're already there anyway. And keep the town of Paradise out of the civil suit business. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Okay, any other cards? Anybody else that didn't have an opportunity to fill out a card? Do we have any time left? Ward wants to. Ward, go ahead, come forward, Ward. I don't know how much time we have left of the 15 minutes.
Thank you. I think you can do this in 30 seconds.
Okay.
I wasn't going to say anything, but Greg reminded me of something because I was involved in one of these 26 years ago, and the guy doing the presentation used the same language, the definitions things, and then switched to a wall is a wall and a door is a door. They're not the same. The reason the door is there is to get in and out. It's not stationary. It's to get in and out. It's a means of egress and ingress. And sometimes there's a sign over them, like exit. It's not the wall, it's the door. I think the Planning Commission was clear.
Thank you, Mr. Haverhill. Okay, so I'm going to close the public hearing. Did we have anybody need to add anything before we... Okay, ask a question.
A question for Craig. Had the property owners in this case been in agreement that a gate should be put there, would the town have objected?
We have never objected to that kind of an arrangement in the past, to my knowledge.
So one of the things that was pointed out about all these other fences and gates and what have you, gates in town, like in the mention of Puddle Duck Court and Cypress Lane, there's some facts that were left out there. A lot of the things that are in town that are on private easements, on private property, everybody's in agreement to the gate being there. So we don't have any dog in that play. the situation with Puddle Duck Court and Cypress and that, or Paradise Woods, whatever that was, there's no legal easement. There's no legal right to come from the two properties end where the gate's been located. And it's been put in there for fire access. But there was contention on that people that lived on the developed area didn't want that to become a through traffic lane. And so that's where that agreement. So not all of these things are apples and apples. There's different situations in each thing. And from my study of this, and I've been to the site and looked at it, and I've read all of the things that were provided to me in the court cases and everything else. But, it's about an easement, and I think the attorneys, I understand his position in the law. It's like, I don't care whether you call it a tail or a leg or whatever. If it's closed, it prohibits the through traffic. And what the law says is that or what our code says is you can't, we called it a fence. I agree that we need to revisit this ordinance and either eliminate it or define it more clearly. But in the meantime, that's what the intent of that thing was, like the attorney explained. And so no matter what you call it, if you put something there to where I can't walk through or drive through on that public easement, then you can call it anything you want. It is a barricade, and whether I have a remote control or a code or a key or any of that stuff. So this is a really difficult thing. The only thing is that the appeal before us is it a gate or is it a fence? That's the only thing we're here to decide. And so, but like all of these other references that are made, I just, from doing my homework, there's a lot of other factors involved in these other things. This is a tough one. I'm going to, I tend to believe that I'm leaning towards we need to fix this ordinance.
Okay. And I have an idea, but go ahead, and Greg.
All right. Question. Even as, yes, Craig. Or Dwight, whichever wants to take it. Even as a landowner, the landowner can't put up that fence or gate.
That's correct.
So
The landlord doesn't have a right to put up a...
Owner of the property, if other people have access to that easement.
Using that...
that easement.
Right. Unless they are in agreement, all the people that use that easement are in agreement of that.
Correct. There have been many cases on that situation.
So here you have a landowner that doesn't have the right to put a gate up there. He owns the property, right? I just want to make sure I understand that. That's one. Two, yes, we need to change the wording. I don't think that's even up for debate right now. We're at the point we need to do something with that. There was a comment made that the decision cannot be based on the people who are involved. I hope everybody knows it isn't based on the people involved. It's based on black and white, what's right and what's wrong. So this isn't a, whatever decision's made is not based on all the people that are there. I know them all, so it doesn't make any sense to base it on that. The policing around town, that was brought up. I'm thankful we don't have a government that goes around and polices these things. We have neighbors that get along and that enjoy each other and enjoy the gate. They should be able to have that gate on their property. But when we have a situation where the neighbors aren't, which saddens me in this situation, that they can't get along, then that's when we have to step in. And tough, very tough.
What I'm going to suggest, I mean, in looking at the ordinance, I don't believe that and it confers with what most of you have said, is it didn't anticipate the ordinance saying, at least is why, I believe that the ordinance is saying that a property owner who's granted or owns a property that has an easement so somebody else can traverse across their property cannot erect a structure there to stop them. Whether that's a gate or a fence isn't important in this part of the discussion. Because the way we write our ordinances, you're thinking about the property owner. nobody but the property owner has a right to build something on their property unless you have a public right-of-way where they put a utility box or something. That's a different thing. And that's the other thing that's important to remember here is a public easement is different than and a utility easement and those kinds are different than a private easement between private parties. So I don't believe that our ordinance anticipated somebody that doesn't own the property wanting to build something on somebody else's property. Okay, so I think that's part of the problem, and I think that fundamentally we got dragged into a civil fight that we don't even belong here, and that kind of echoes what Alan White said. Interestingly, his letter, was a lot of things that had kind of been rattling around in my head, and I met with the attorney about it. That we don't belong in this fight. So the solution to extract us from this mess I believe, is to continue the appeal, so we don't. And we have. The appeal was filed on the 18th. We have 40 days. And I'm not proposing to the council to drag that out to the 40th day. I'm saying, let's meet on this next week. Let's enact a moratorium on action on involving gates and fences. And then let's clean up the language in our ordinances to better define easement rights on properties and the use of gates. Lots of people have called into question, if we rule this way, then all these gates and easements, are not, or can't be there anymore. But talk to the attorney about it, and we beg to differ. And unless you're an attorney, I'm going to defer to our attorney, who's very good at this, and this is what he does, and he protects us well in these matters. So, Mr. Moore, can you help us craft what I'm talking about here, so that we can, and furthermore, if we get to the end of this, I have no problem with if the council wants to take action to refund Mr. and Mrs. Bettis's appeal money, Mr. Ramelia's termination fee, if that's what we need to do. I can't say that. I mean, that's just my opinion. We would have to take some action in order to do that. But I don't think we belonged in this fight to begin with, and as such, we didn't really have a right to take those fees. So, Mr. Moore.
Well, based on my calculation, you have until the filed February 20th.
I'm sorry, I had the incorrect date.
Until the end of March, you can continue this item to a date certain in that time period, so before the and adopt an ordinance freezing the law, more or less, with the moratorium, which relates to fences, and perfectly legal to do that. Urgency ordinance, it would be in effect for 45 days, and then if you wanted to change the laws relating to fences or gates, so within that period of time, or you could continue it for another half months based upon notice. But I would think that you'd be able to fairly swiftly, because this is an extremely simple issue. It's not complicated. Fence, gate, I think everybody may have a mental image of what it is, but there's also the legal image of what it is. So if you continue this matter until a time, and date certain in the next 2 weeks, draft an ordinance
Okay,
to
so
create the
when we
moratorium.
so for those of you that are new on the council, Mr. Bullen and Ms. Jones, we talk about a date certain. Right now, we have to pick a date for this meeting to do that, so we can set that date certain so that all the parties.
I've got a couple of questions. So you're talking about, we set a date certain to continue the public hearing to?
Yes.
Okay, and we have a time frame to do that within. And then during that time, we would hold a special meeting, and we would pass a measure to...
An emergency moratorium.
Okay, and what would that do?
What that does is that freezes all the law relating to fences and gates. Identify it as something that all of those laws would not be in effect at that time until you adopted a new ordinance which would modify them.
And so if we enacted a moratorium, that in essence then would be upholding the Planning Commission's...
No.
We haven't taken any action on it.
Well, but
the moratorium would just...
But it currently, there's a dispute as to whether or not, so there'd be the moratorium would say, okay, fences don't count. That rule doesn't count, right?
There wouldn't be any rules to the extent that you identify them, and they would be frozen and in place, the same as the marijuana.
So there's no rule, so that would remove the fence.
Marijuana a few years ago.
That would remove the fence, the whole thing. It would.
Well, that would just freeze it, so everything would be frozen at that point.
So it would not apply.
No, there wouldn't be any action at that point in time relating to those issues. That's what you're freezing with the moratorium, because you're contemplating changing it. While you're contemplating changing something, you don't want to have all sorts of things happening.
So nothing could happen.
Nothing would happen.
Now, just to clarify, if we set a special meeting for next week and we do an emergency moratorium on fence issues involving easements, and I should point out this is the first time Baker knows of, perhaps in the history of town, that we've had to deal with this. So it's not like we have lots of these questions about this particular issue. Would we need to take action on the appeal to overrule it or support the Planning Commission at that point? Do we need to finalize that?
It would also freeze the appeal.
Okay, so then it freezes the...
So then so that means then that we set a date certain, then we have a special meeting and we pass a moratorium, so then that freezes the appeal too. So the date certain doesn't matter because nothing happens until... Okay.
Yeah.
It sounds simple.
What do you think of Mr. Ball?
What does that accomplish?
Okay, so
what that allows you to do is change the law so that it's very clear as
and
to how
I guess
it works.
I guess in the end result, Mr. Moore, are you looking for what's the end result for the appellant and Mr. Ball? Yeah, okay, so can you explain that?
The end result would be a new set of laws, perhaps. Have something that's very clear and identify when you can place a gate and how it would be done, and then that would set the stage for the future. All activities of the future relating to these structures across a private easement would be under that law.
So, for instance, it'll talk about neighbors agreeing on this.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, it depends on what you want to do.
Participants in the easement, presumably.
And if they don't agree, then it means that they don't.
It's however we write it. But in the interim, while it's frozen, their civil case would go on. Courts would be dealing with that civil matter, and we'd have nothing to do with that. In the meantime, we would write this law or this ordinance the way we want it.
Well, I think it's already clear to them how we're going to.
Yeah.
We're going to let the civil.
Yeah, and that's what this just kind of removes us from everything while that goes on. And
we're going to make it clear we don't have a dog in this fight, as they're fond of saying. So.
Then I would propose that we do, or can we not do that until after?
No, we have to wait.
Okay,
till
so
after
we
this
have
process.
to
Continue the
wait. But I'm not, and I don't know when it's appropriate to bring that, I mean, and probably in the scheme of things with what they've spent on this stuff, it's kind of chump change, but still, I don't feel we have, they probably don't feel it's chump change, but I don't feel that we had the right to collect those fees if we weren't in the right place.
That's an issue that we deal
We
with.
can talk-
we can deal with
after
after
you
fact,
take
but that's
action,
later.
Okay,
related
so-
to the moratorium.
I'll make a motion. Can we agree on a date, everybody?
Yeah, let's look at it, if you can look at it, if we can look at our calendars. I guess the first question is, you want to do this in the evening? Or?
Yes,
on that?
please.
Evening is the preference, okay. Yeah, but I think in fairness to the parties involved, and as Mr. Moore said, it's not going to take a great deal of time to put together a moratorium. That's pretty simple. You want to do it next Tuesday, the 18th?
Planning Commission.
Oh, wait, we have a planning commission that night? Okay. Then we can do it on the night. Do you want to do it on the 19th? Wednesday night? Is that good for you, Mr. Colleton? Mrs. Jones?
Yes.
Okay. 6 o'clock? Okay, and hopefully when...
Wednesday the 19th, you're talking.
Wednesday the 19th, 6 o'clock, so that's our date certain. Okay.
And I make a motion, we continue this public hearing to March 19th at 6 o'clock.
That's all you need to do?
Okay, that's my motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and second. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Roll call vote. Vice Mayor Boland.
Aye.
Councilmember Culleton.
Aye.
Councilmember Jones.
Aye.
Councilmember Rawlings is absent, and Mayor Lauder.
Aye. Okay, thank you
So
very much.
public-
So we'll be back here.
The appeal hearing is continued to March 19th.
The appeal is
at
continued.
6 o'clock.
And let's take a 5-minute break right now, and we'll be back and finish this up. I see that the feed didn't get turned off during the break there. And oh, okay. Well, the cameras are still on. Okay.
Okay, let's just...
All right,
move
so
on.
moving right along. The next item after 5A is public communication. This is the time for members of the audience that have completed a request to address council card and given it to the clerk to present items not on the agenda. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes duration. Town council is prohibited by state law from taking action on any item presented if it is not listed on the agenda. Do we have any cards tonight?
We have no cards
We have no
on
cards.
public
Anybody?
communication.
Thank you, Mr. Haverhill. Okay, then we will close, unless there's somebody that forgot to fill one out. Okay, we'll close the public comment period. And we are going to move on to item 7A, consider adopting resolution 14-7, a resolution approving agreement regarding collection of development impact fees for jail facilities within the incorporated area of the town of Paradise.
This, Mr. Mayor, this is an item that is brought to us from Butte County, and we have a member here from Butte County, Greg Aturia, who's going to speak to this item. If you remember, the county CAO, Paul Hahn, came and asked that we pass an impact fee for the new jail. And they're applying for a grant application to build a new jail, and this is something that I know that the police chiefs support in the county because of this situation with the overcrowding in the jails. And so, Greg, would you like to take this over?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the Town Council. My name is Greg Aturia. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the County of Butte. I'm here on behalf of the County of Butte to ask your partnership and participation by agreeing to let the county, allowing the county to impose a development impact fee on new residential development for new housing construction in the future that occurs in the town of Paradise, much like the county already does in the unincorporated area. After this request, we also will be going to all the other cities in the county making a similar request. If you'll recall from my presentation with the Undersheriff Honey in January to this council, we started collecting this impact fee in 2007 after we did a study that shows what the impact on jail capacity is as new population occurs. And at the time, the county was and still is under a court-ordered consent decree that has a cap, and because of that, the county does need to release inmates prematurely into the communities, and as the population grows, that problem becomes more concerning, more frequent, and the seriousness of some of the inmates becomes more concerning as that occurs. And so the county has developed a plan to do a jail expansion, and we are in a good position to get state funding for much of it, for $40 million of it, if the county can come up with a $4.5 million match in order to build the big addition to deal with that. So the funding stream that the county gets right now from residential development in the unincorporated area is not enough to fund that local match. But we believe that if it was collected throughout the county, not just in the unincorporated area, it would be enough to come up with the funding source. We could have enough over 10 years to pay that match and be able to expand the jail.
So it does have a sunset?
Yeah, the agreement that is we're asking for your approval is a 10-year agreement. It also provides that it does not go into effect unless all 5 cities agree to the same or similar agreement. And so upon an agreement here, hopefully, then we will be going to the other cities one by one, seeking their concurrence. And then at that point, once it's all in place, we could actually start collecting it. It would be a county fee, so it's not a town fee, but for the convenience for the fee payers, the developers, we drafted up a means for the town that can collect when they're collecting other fees for the convenience of the developers and the builders, so they can just have one place, not have to go down the hill to Oroville. And then quarterly, forward any collections. And if we get everyone to do that, again, we believe that'll be enough to build the jail expansion and help us with this growing public safety concern that's certainly not going to get any better as our population grows. So again, here for your support, your partnership in addressing this issue, and asking for permission for the county to assess this fee on a countywide basis.
Amount of the fee, $455.80. Term is for 10 years. The county increases the fees with prior written consent during that. The town would have the right to terminate the agreement. The county wants to increase. Stop it.
We've protected ourselves.
Yes. It wouldn't, but, we...
It just, if I may, just for a historic perspective, the fee is the same as it was in 2007. The county has not increased it. And in fact, just even last year, the county decreased development impact fees. There has not been a history of going in. And,
But in fairness, you didn't have to match anything. Right now, you have to, in 10 years, match a $4.5 million. That's a little different than your other impact fee.
And if we find, because I'm a math guy, if the math's not adding up, I need to go out and demonstrate that. In this case, it would be not just to the Board of Supervisors, but to each council in all 5 cities in order to get written concurrence ahead of time. I would have to prove that out, that it's necessary.
But once you prove it, it's going to happen, and there's nothing that just...
The way that we drafted the agreement, that if it increased, the town council could give a 60-day notice that they're no longer
Not collected, but it doesn't change. The fee would still be in effect, right?
Does it,
You'd still have to pay.
or would it not be in effect?
You would not collect the fee. The problem that the county has is doesn't issue.
Well, did they have, whether they have...
We have to tell them, go down to the county and check, there's a fee there.
That's 2007.
Yeah, just been county, right.
Yeah.
Issue a permit.
But they don't have jurisdiction.
But you'll collect it here and send it down to them.
Yeah. What we're talking about is if it terminates. This agreement terminates.
They raise the fee.
And it wouldn't be, essentially would not be in effect in the town of Paradise. I guess
That's correct.
that's probably more important. So what's alternate plan B? If you don't get all 5 cities, how do you do this?
We don't have an alternate means to come up with a $4.5 million match. So we'd keep looking. It's important enough of an issue that we'll keep looking. We'll keep trying. There's a lot of concerns right now about our current situation, and of course fear that if we start building a lot more houses, get a lot more population, it's going to get worse. And so this is a way for such development to mitigate that impacts. Yeah. Yeah.
So again, how many new beds does it get us?
Well, this will get us.
I thought they were replacing some.
100 and something new beds, plus some replacements of some older ones, an older style. Yeah.
Your point, though, Greg, it's like, because cost of acquiring and or developing jail facilities. And this year, and 7, that cost of that facility.
And yeah, and if we're at that point and there's not enough, then we'll have to come back and document that and make the presentation. Right now, our estimates do consider that there's going to be an escalation in costs. I mean, so we are assuming that to some extent. These are based on current costs, but when we go out and apply for the state and get the state for their funding for their share of this project, we believe this will be enough.
With the number of houses that we build in Paradise in a year, you're probably only going to get a couple of doors out of it.
Right. Yeah. The big I think we
maybe
you get a lock and
yeah. The main funding source is anticipated to be in the Chico area, incorporated and potentially unincorporated area. I think there's a lot of planned housing growth for that area, and I suspect that'll be the main source. But that town council, just like this town council, is going to say, okay, if everyone else does, we recognize that.
Mrs. Jones, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yes, I would say I think this is one of the core functions of government. It's one of the things we're supposed to do. I do think with realignment, it's becoming an issue. I like that it spreads the pain of accomplishing this.
Okay, I know there's a Nexus study on it. I don't understand the difference between the mobile home, why that's less than a single family. If you ask me, I can say somebody living in a single family home is not going to be the one, or is it because you build a new home that you're a target to get broken into? So then jail space to put those people away.
Yeah, the study looked at increasing overall capacity for housing in the county and what type of unit adds typically what type of capacity. And so that's why there's a difference, because on average, a mobile home has a certain number of residents, whereas on average, a house or an apartment has a different number. So that's the basis. And the other thing that happens with these type of fees, they've been fought and settled through court actions for many years. There's developed right now consensus of what survives legal challenges, and so all the consultants are coming in using methodologies that have survived the test of time.
Okay. Do we have any cards on this item?
No cards.
Anybody in the audience want to come forward and talk about it?
No, you.
Okay. Thank you, Greg.
Thanks.
Excuse me, word here, but I got a question here, though. What if Paradise produces no criminals? Why should we be paying for a jail we're not going to use?
It's not whether we're producing criminals.
Not worried about that part.
And I don't think we have a problem.
Oh, so you're
And let's
I think
say
we
that's
already
true.
have
And let's,
criminals
okay, that's a question.
in
Let's
town.
say that's true. The reason we're paying for a jail is because we don't want the criminals that are being produced in other municipalities or in Magalia to come into our town and do any crime. That's why.
And that's exactly what he should have said. What you just said.
We
That's
have.
why we all do it. And she says
Well,
we
he
have to
said it in
spread this
January.
out.
That's how I remembered it.
Add that in next time.
We need to produce no new criminals, and we still need places to lock them up because it's a revolving door. Yeah, absolutely. That's the next step. Okay. Anybody else in the audience? Okay. Thank you. I'll close that public hearing on this item and await action from the council. Do you want to make a statement?
I do.
Thank you.
I struggle with this because we use the term fees because in California we're afraid to go to the people to ask for a tax. And we went to the fee structure. We have had so much hit the housing industry in the last 10, 12 years. I just don't understand. I don't get the thought process that new homes in our county produce more people that need to go to jail. I know that's based on population growth. I understand that. It doesn't make sense that we burden a home more than we already. I mean, what's hit them in the last few years has just been incredible, and we just keep putting more fees and more fees and more fees, more costs and more costs. Am I sensitive? Yeah, I'm sensitive. I'm in the business. I'm sensitive to it. So it's tough to see this happen. You can't afford to build a house right now as it is. But we come up with this as the only alternative to pay for jail that everybody should participate in, not just someone that buys a new home. I don't understand that part. I agree. I support our police. I reject the idea that because I struggle with this, I don't support my police. I do. We need more police, and I support them. I support the fact we need a jail, bigger jail. We need to 100% support it. Can we come up with some other alternative where everybody participates, not just people that buy a new home? I don't get it. I mean, we have been fighting in this town to get our costs down so people can afford to build a new home. And here I struggle.
So you're not going to make the motion on this?
No.
Okay.
Thanks
Just
for
want to make
asking.
it
No,
clear.
appreciate that.
Clear.
Well, and I mean, just to.
And I appreciate
to your point. I mean, what I didn't understand, and parcel, there was a parcel tax or parcel fee applied to every parcel. So when you pay your property taxes, you got a jail fee on there. Yeah, that's everybody, no matter what, and that would include businesses, because that's the thing I don't get. You build a movie theater with a parking lot, and there's drug deals going on in that parking lot at midnight. Build a liquor store or a bar, or something. drivers out having crashes, and there's criminal activity around business, yet they're excluded from all this.
Might create a
Your parking lot.
I'd say a business being there doesn't necessarily.
But I'm just saying, I mean, to your
contribute
point
to
about
the
like
issue.
it's only geared on homes and mobile homes. It's like it would be fair, and I don't know the parcel tax where everybody in the county, whether you live in this, how legally, if you can apply a fee to property taxes, maybe Howard Jarvis screwed that up. I don't. You know,
But
it
if
just
you have a
seems like there's
quarter-acre
another avenue,
parcel-
maybe ought to be,
Have
you
to
get
go to
more
the
money.
vote.
You know, I think you'd have more
And Greg, I'm not after you. I know you're just trying to do your job. I understand. This is not personal. I just don't get it. I don't get it in government.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion.
Walmart's on it.
I'll make a motion that we adopt Resolution 14-07,
07.
authorizing the town manager to execute an agreement between the town of Paradise and the county of Butte relating to development impact fees for jail facilities.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Culleton, a second by Mrs. Jones. A roll call.
The roll call vote. Vice Mayor Bolin?
No.
Councilmember Culleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Jones?
Aye.
Councilmember Rawlings is absent. Mayor Lauder?
Aye.
Motion carries 3 yeses,
Thank you. So
1 no,
now we'll see
1
whether
absent.
the other 4 cities in the county. All right. On to our next item. We have item 7B, consider extending the application period to fill vacancy on a Paradise Planning Commission or consider alternative direction relating to the pending vacancy.
Go ahead, Joanna.
Can you handle that?
Yeah, it's a real quick one. Joanna can just speak to that quickly. You don't have
Yes,
to
as
read
you know, the town council authorized the advertising of the vacancy on the planning commission, and the council selected a committee of 2, Vice Mayor Bolin and Councilmember Jones. And the council's committee asked that the council consider extending the deadline, as there was only 1 application received for the vacancy. And that's why it's back to council to consider.
Okay, so what's the pleasure?
We did not meet with anybody, so it's not like we haven't met. And
The time period that it was open was very short. I don't think there was a lot of notice to the public. Greg and I agreed that we should extend the time frame and give
Okay.
people more time.
How long was it?
10 days, I think.
Okay, so if we're going to extend that, we would need a roll call vote. Do we need to open this up?
Unless there's someone here that wants to speak to this.
Do you want to speak to it? Mr. Nichols, you were our lone applicant. So how long do we want to extend it? What are we...
Numbers.
Yeah, we suggest, it's suggested to extend it to March 24th, because that gives us time to get it ready for the agenda packet and so forth. Get it ready to meet the agenda deadlines. If you want it to come back
March
in April.
24th, that's 12 days?
Well, it had 13 days to begin with, so now you want to extend it
Because
12
would give
more days.
time to, you'd have to consider, we considered setting up the interviews sometime during that week. So
Oh, I
it would
see.
just
Okay.
depend on when the committee's available to meet.
Well, but you say no fiscal impact, so aren't you going to have to re-advertise it and all that?
There's no published notice. We put it out on the website and Facebook, and we send out notes to service groups. Council members have applications to give
before.
to people.
Or
Yeah,
paper.
we did all that.
put it in the paper.
In the turnaround time that we had, by the time we sent it, have missed a public, a meeting. Some of these groups meet on some
Yeah, it was a
meeting.
little odd, too, because last time we had so many applicants, and this time there was 1. We didn't know if there
What did
was
we do
enough
differently?
time or...
Well, we talked about eliminating it. That's one of the things.
Yeah, there was, yeah.
Nobody liked my idea.
But I guess, that,
Me.
I guess, did anybody come in and apply after the deadline, or has anybody shown any? because that's my point is, you advertised it through however you do it now for 13 days. And so you got one applicant. So now you want to extend that and advertise it for another 12 days or 14 days. Okay. Like some people showed up after the fact and said, I mean, I'm not opposed to extending it if we think it, but it's just kind of like, you know, really think it's going to be good.
But is 12 days enough?
I don't have a problem.
I mean, you know, why not make it 45 days? I don't know. I mean, is there any urgency?
The vacancy expires in 2017, so there's plenty of time to recruit. So you could decide to appoint at your...
I just want to make sure we're not back doing this again.
We could extend it to accommodate the May meeting, if you'd prefer to try and appoint at the May meeting. And then set the deadline.
Let's put the...
We have a lot of activity coming up on it for the Planning Commission.
That's a snoozer.
Right, they're not real controversial. So we can go to the May meeting, or we can go to the 28th.
Why don't we extend it out to the middle of April?
Okay, how about a deadline of the 21st?
And I would suggest that we put that up somehow, so when you go to our webpage, you can announcements. Don't scroll down.
Okay, I could put a link at the top of the page that would take them to the application.
If we're going to use our webpage, let people see that this is an opening.
Put her in Facebook it. And
okay, and then I suggest setting the deadline for the 21st of April, and then appointments for the May.
Okay, so I'll entertain a
13th
motion
meeting.
to that effect.
I move that.
So moved by Vice Mayor Bolin. Second by Council Jones.
Okay, so set the
Councilperson Jones.
Actually, it could be on the 20. If the committee is available to meet on the week of the 28th, we could set the deadline on April 28th.
Just let's stick with the 21st. I think that's
okay.
more than enough time.
Okay, so
I was just concerned that with some of these groups only meet monthly, that we're missing opportunity.
Okay. So
okay.
Deadline on the 21st and appoint at the May 13th meeting.
Do we have, email back for all of these different groups?
Yes.
We're not reinventing the wheel.
No. So the roll call vote. Vice Mayor Bolin?
Aye.
Councilmember Jones? Oh, Councilmember Culleton? Sorry.
Aye.
Out of order, Councilmember Jones?
Aye.
Councilmember Rawlings is absent, and Mayor Lauder.
Aye. Thank you. Okay.
That's correct.
I would say that's correct, yes. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, so we're on to item 7D, consider approving 2013-14 budget adjustments as recommended and provide direction to staff for preparing the 2014-15 operating capital budget.
This has nothing to do with any of that, except that these don't work, so. No signal.
Mine works. Okay, Mr. Mayor, this item will be presented by Gina Will, our Finance Director, Town Treasurer. Gina.
Thank you. Good evening. Do you want to take a second to... Okay. So, just as a brief reminder, we had presented our mid-year budget review February 11th, 2014, the last meeting. And in that, we had a bit of good news. The general fund is balanced, and it's expected to remain balanced through the end of the year for the second year in a row. And some of our other key funds are also balanced with adequate reserves. Animal control is still a fund that we need to do a little additional work on to have that be sustainable. So, however, then we turn to some of the issues and constraints that we have with our current general fund budget. There are certainly elements within our current budget that are not sustainable, including the 5th year of employee concessions that total a little over $178,000, that we have eliminated or greatly reduced training budgets in all departments. We are not able to maintain or replace needed equipment. Our public works engineering personnel budgets have been removed from the general fund for 1 year. And also we are not able to fund our GASB 45 trust. So in summary, we looked at the next 5 years and some of the limitations that we have. So by this projection, it appears that our general fund expenses will outpace our revenues by about 1% or $100,000 over the next 5 years. 65% of our revenues are constrained by a 2% growth limit. And we do have expenses like our CalPERS contribution rates and our pension obligation bond, which will grow more than 2% during that 5-year period.
And Gina, one point of clarification. When you talk about our general fund expenses, you're talking about the current expenses we have now, not including the deficit.
Correct. So our current bare bones budget, without some of the earlier limitations that were addressed, we would still outpace revenues by about 1%. So in addition to that, we have about $450,000 to $500,000 structural deficit where, again, we're just not able to fund some needed community infrastructure improvements, equipment replacement, facility maintenance, and employee training. All of that would continue to need to be deferred for the next 5 years. So this, again, just briefly shows the deficit spending that's projected the next 5 years based on rolling forward a bare bones budget, operating budget for general fund. So specific to this particular month, the adjustments that we are asking Council to consider approval on is an additional increase to the sales and use tax by $10,000. Our current receipts are continuing to show growth in this area. It looks like overall growth will be about 5% this fiscal year. And also an analysis of our franchise fees appears through the second quarter of the fiscal year that we could increase that budget also by about $2,200. So that brings us to a snapshot of our general fund and where we expect the general fund to end this fiscal year with a reserve of 15.8%, which is a little over our goal. However, as talked about earlier, because of our continued constraints, we're going to need every bit of that rolling forward, just to operate and be able to pay our vendors timely and pay our employees timely. So moving on to gas tax and streets, we got a little bit of good news from the state of California. They have recently released updated revenue projections for 2013-14, and so for our gas tax, streets, and roads, we'll get about an additional $118,000 for street and maintenance projects. So we will bring forward to budget some projects to be considered. If we're not able to get them completed this fiscal year, those funds will roll forward for street maintenance projects the following fiscal year. So again, this is a snapshot of our gas tax, streets, and roads budget, and where we will end for the 2013-14 fiscal year is a nice, healthy 25.7% ending fund reserve balance. So moving on to our operating budget process for 2014-15. We are seeking some direction for preparing our 14-15 budget. And so the first part of that process will be refining our revenue projections for next year to determine the resources that we actually have to use to provide services to our community. So at the next meeting, at the April 8th, 2014 meeting, all of the departments will be presenting goals. But today we are actually seeking direction from Town Council on how to begin allocating the town's limited resources between departments. So, as you know, the town is currently functioning on a very bare-bones budget that cannot be sustained indefinitely. The town currently has no means in investing in community infrastructure except for that which is provided by grant funds. General fund expenditures have been cut to the point of only funding basic operations and personnel, and there are really two options that I see available for the 2014-15 budget. So we can roll forward our existing budget, recognizing that we will not be able to do any sewer feasibility and planning, any equipment replacement, facility maintenance, complete employee training, or provide contributions to our retiree health unfunded liability. Or we can look to reduce a portion of services or personnel in order to fund some of these before mentioned important items. So other budget considerations, we will be meeting with Town Council tonight in closed session to discuss employee negotiations and whether we can afford not to ask employees for a 6th year of employee concessions. And in addition to that, next month we will bring forward some options concerning perhaps diversifying or enhancing revenues for the future. Are there any questions?
Mrs. Will? Thank you, Gina.
Basically,
Have some comments.
yes, basically as the manager, I mean, you can see where we are. We have a bare bones budget that cannot sustain us in the future. We have to look at something. We do need more police, more public safety. We do need to have money to invest in our infrastructure. I think it's imperative that we fund the GASB 45 medical fund in order to make that fund sustaining. And we need money to move forward as an organization, but especially as a community. I don't know how many times I have heard in the past year that we need more police, and we just, can't go out there and get that with the money that we have. We are constantly hiring for just keeping our police force the way that it is. We have a couple of police officers testing for other places, looking at other places. We have a couple that are out hurt on injuries, and our force is dwindling even more, which is something that's very difficult to talk about in public, but we have to, for transparency's sake. We have to talk about this. When do we want to do something to really move forward and correct these problems? So basically, the only option we have right now is to move forward with this current bare bones budget, and that doesn't give us a lot to bring forward to the council and say, here are our goals, this is what we want to accomplish. Basically, what we're going to do is say we want to survive again for the next year. We did a pretty darn good job this year, and we have some more grants that we'll be doing bringing some more road projects to the council. Public safety will suffer. Our facilities are suffering and will continue to suffer. So we have to, again, I just implore that the council look at, help us find ways to increase revenues, and we will be looking at more business opportunities as much as we possibly can, but I think that we need to do something to sustain us for a little while. We will bring some, like Gina said, we will bring a proposal to the council at the next meeting next month, and we'll also bring what we deem as important for our department, for our goals. But the bare bones budget, even if we kept going with this bare bones budget, our expenses will outpace our revenues, and that doesn't sit well. We had to bring this forward because again, for transparency's sake, we didn't want to be like other cities that all of a sudden spring this on the council in the third or fourth year. We want to bring it forward now. This is where we're going. We're projecting that we're going down this road, so we need to do something now. We've always been a town that has taken the bull by the horns and saying, what can we do to make this situation better? We've always looked at reality here. We've always done a great job. I think we have an amazing staff. When I listen to not only the presentations from our engineer, our finance director, our community development director, I look at the people who aren't, always presenting. Kate, the police chief, fire chief, they're all doing such a great job, and we have a great group of employees that do a lot of work here. So I'm proud to say that we're still moving forward in a positive direction, but we will be getting into some trouble here if we don't address our revenues.
We need to accept the.
So I guess I would like to ask for a little bit of direction for preparing the budget. We'll bring a budget a budget schedule forward to the council, but if you'd like us to continue with the budget that we have and roll that forward, we can bring something back. Sure.
So you said in that presentation that we had some people that we pulled out of last year, just out of the general fund.
Well, not all of them are generally funded out of the general fund, but at least a portion of them are.
So is that anticipated for next year's budget too? That we're
Yes, it does appear at this point we'd have enough projects to fund them for next year.
And then the two options going forward is either, unless we get the grant we've applied for, the sewer, the option one, right? Take this budget we've been using bare bones and or reducing a portion of services or personnel. Possibly do that. Also, don't know if you're asking for direction like sessions that the employees.
That will be closed session. We're just looking for open session. We can't talk about the budget, obviously, in closed session. We need to talk about it here. So we're just basically looking for a little direction and to just give the council an opportunity to know what we have going forward at this point.
Okay, I guess based on what? Based on these two options you gave me? Based on something I don't know about, you're going to tell me about next month?
So based on what we know today, based on the projections that were just studied, and not knowing whether council had a project or a specific goal that they really need us to address this next fiscal year.
It's been the flavor of the council for the past 2 years to have a balanced budget absolutely no matter what cost. And you're telling me that we're going to, no matter what, we're going to be in.
No, I mean, obviously, I think if the direction from council is, again, that we present a balanced budget, then we would figure out a way to find that $75,000, and part of it will be fine-tuning, again, we'll be building the budget again from scratch, so refining all the revenue projections, all of the expenditures projections, and hopefully that alone would solve that, but if not, we would have to find some additional cuts.
Now, obviously, we need to balance our budget, but are you projecting, I mean, obviously, we came out ahead this year from what we originally had projected, right? And pretty much most
Only
of the
because we
categories.
saved more.
I'm sorry?
Only because we cut expenses more. Our revenues
All
increased.
because of that, or were there some additional?
Right. I don't know if you remember the mid-year presentation. We actually adjusted revenues down by $1,000. So the increase in general fund reserves really came from additional saved expenses.
But we adjusted, the sales tax revenue has come in above.
Yeah, so
there's been additional.
And property taxes come up some.
Yeah, so basically it was the, property tax, sales tax, those kinds of revenues that we are increasing. However, like the service fee stuff is all decreasing.
I understand, but there's been some that have gone up. are you projecting next year to go up the same amount that you saw this year on those sales tax increases, property tax increases?
Yeah,
Or are
property-
you staying static with that?
No, property, I'm projecting growth for the next 5 years in property taxes, sales tax, some of our franchise agreements, that kind of thing. But unfortunately, it just looks like those revenues aren't increasing enough to meet with the expenses that will also be increasing during those 5
Are
years.
you meeting with them down there at the county on how they're doing with their property taxes? Do you meet with them regularly?
Yes, I do. As part, in particular, for the budget process, we will meet again, and I will meet specifically with the assessor to see what he's seeing.
The reason I ask is we've had some discussions with them the last months. It appears that when you do a remodel, that they're actually calling that an added value to the house, and they're taking on that 2%. In other words, you remodel your bathroom. Now the value of your home just went up $10,000.
Right. And we have, 25% of our property tax properties are not governed by that 2%. But
Because
it's
of
still...
foreclosures and other things.
Exactly.
Right. But is that a new tactic that they're using that's not happened before?
I don't think it's new. I think we've always had properties that have fallen outside of that Prop 13. It's just a fairly limited number compared
Us,
to...
this is new. Something's happening. Something's going on down there. That's why I was wondering.
That is a good question. You might ask the assessor that. And I was always told that if there's a big remodel, then that could affect the property values, but a small.
Added footage? Yes.
Right.
But
not just a bathroom, so that might be
Take your
new.
kitchen and redo your kitchen. Now it's an added value, and they're going...
I'll certainly visit with the
Please,
assessor
yeah,
about
find
that.
out, because we're struggling. All we get to do is talk to the people at the lower levels, and is that a new feature, new thing they're doing?
We can do that.
Stretching the interpretation.
Well, and that might be. I mean, that might be the way they're getting around the 2%.
So right now, we're just asking for basic general direction from the council, nothing real set in stone yet. Obviously, we don't have the budget prepared, but if you'd like us to keep going with our bare bones budget, we can do that. If you would like us to look at cutting personnel
I think
and
we don't
services.
have much choice but to keep going with the bare bones budget.
I think that's important, but there are things that I hope we can squeeze some little things, some training in there. Training of different employees. I think we've eliminated that for the last year or two, right?
Well,
This
we've
last
reduced
year.
it greatly.
Yeah. And I know there's some situations in which we need to get on top of that and hopefully we can do some more of that budget than we've done this last year.
We will definitely work with department heads to see if we can then shift some of the savings on to other things other than training and put a little bit more
Obviously, it'd be
training
nice to
in.
try to get another officer, say we can afford one.
Right.
Kind of going on that thought, I know a lot of communities use grants to enhance their police force, and I know that they're not long-term, they're only maybe 2 years, and you might be faced at the end of 2 years with having to give those people up, but in the meantime, you've enhanced your force for 2 years, and at the end of 2 years, the conditions might be different, and you might be able to keep them.
We do get grants for that, and we do enhance our force with that. And in the past, there was a council, I don't know if it was the entire council, but I know that we've had people on the council that did not want us to increase personnel or the police force because we didn't have the means to do that, so that they were reluctant to get grants. But we've always gotten the types of grants that didn't require that. The other thing, our police chief is really good at getting grants and looking at the fact where if she knows that she's going to have some attrition or officers leave, if she gets a grant now, we can keep that person on and then maybe continue to hire if we need new officers at that point. So we walk that line, trying to keep at least the bare minimum of our police force, but it would be nice to have a full complement and something that we can
May I
feel
interject
safe
just
with.
one thing real quick, too? Part of the mid-year process, we had brought forward for approval the hire of an AB 109 officer that we're still planning on hiring, and that is funded through a grant. So an AB 109 officer.
That's the realignment.
But that's
the
not-
We
realignment.
got some realignment money.
Oh, that's right, okay, all right.
Right, but that's not like those hiring safer grants and stuff to where they just pay for 2 years.
No,
and then you put them up
and
for-
obviously the thought process there is we have the funding source available for a couple years, but likely if that funding source were to expire at the end of the couple years, we would likely have attrition to be able to keep that person on the force. But
And we have a
would-
trained officer. So Gabby's really good at that type of thing. She plays those numbers great, and she does look for grants, every grant that we can possibly get. I don't know how we can get one of those grants like the city of Chico just got, where they got to hire 15.
That was fire, wasn't it?
That was fire. But, yeah, that was pretty amazing.
Where'd that come from?
It was not quite sure, I believe it was federal, but it was,
Isn't it a SAFER grant?
I'm not sure what it was.
SAFER
Have some
grant.
criterias with the airport and stuff that makes them unique.
And it was it was very competitive, and they had all those things that allowed them to get that.
This 5-year projection that we're looking at, essentially when, a couple of years ago, during Chuck's, it's kind of the same scenario, and I know we've done some, we didn't have a balanced budget here, and we
And really, in the grand scheme of things, $100,000 on a $10 million budget is not a huge obstacle to overcome. The problem, of course, still is that we have these structural issues.
Yeah, and because I was looking at that next year, where it's projected at 700.
Well, I'm projection
Changes.
for the next 5 years that we would have about $100,000 deficit each year. And again, on a $10 million budget, that's not difficult to overcome, but it doesn't address the structural issues that we still have.
Which is part of whatever you're going to bring back to us and part of what the mayor brought up last.
Correct.
Start looking at some way to.
Address that.
Only the state would pay back all the money they owed it.
No kidding.
I'm looking at the hole in the ceiling back there. which
Yeah,
is
don't mind the hole in the ceiling.
the
but we'll
latest
fix that.
example of our inability to take care of our facilities, and
Yeah, we're going to get that fixed. That'll be fixed. But without a doubt,
that's just an example.
That's a
that
good
our-
example.
Our facilities are not in good shape, and we're not able to maintain them, and it's not sustainable to continue doing that. I'm looking forward to the options to how we can add some of those things back in.
Okay. We're going to be working on that and
Okay,
bring that
so
back
we
to the
need,
next meeting.
I think we
Just
still
a
need
general
to.
direction.
We still need to have a vote on this item, and perhaps public comment even, if there's somebody in the public. I thought I'd already asked. I thought I had already asked for.
Close the public.
I thought I'd already asked for
My
public
suggestion
comment.
would be that we give the direction that we give the staff is that go with option 1, not option.
Okay, so public comment, Mr. Habriel.
Thank you. Please don't forget the spirit of volunteerism in this town. If you just consider how many VIPs we have compared to how many cops we have the highest ratio of any place in the country that has volunteers in police service or the STARS program or anything like that. And look at what the churches do. Look at what the garden club does. The spirit of volunteerism around here is incredible. Sometimes you turn them down. Stop doing that. Figure out how to let them do some of these things.
How do we turn them down?
You remember the tree that fell through the house over there and 6 neighbors complained?
All right.
Uh-huh.
Okay,
And you
yeah,
had
all
a
right.
free contractor services available to clean it up. You didn't let them.
Okay. Anybody else want to comment on this item? All right. Seeing close the comment portion. Entertain a motion.
I'll move that we accept, is that it? We just accept the report and give direction to staff.
We're approving the budget adjustments as recommended.
Second. Already seconded it.
Give direction for the option 1.
Okay, so we have a motion by Mr. Colton, second by Mr. Bolin. Roll call.
Vice Mayor Bolin?
Aye.
Councilmember Culleton?
Aye.
Councilmember Jones?
Aye.
Councilmember Rawlings is absent, and Mayor Lauder?
Aye. Okay, next is council communications, council law reports. Start with Mrs. Jones.
I don't have anything to report for the past month, but tomorrow morning, Councilmember Rollins and I will be doing the interviews.
Informative. And
the highlight of the meeting was the Comcast guy falling through.
yeah, it was just, we just started the meeting and fellow felt.
I'm sorry, I'll come back to that. We
I'll do that under my reports.
Yeah,
It's the...
it was a supplemental item that we decided to pull.
Agenda, under the amended agenda.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't have, my packet didn't get updated because it was still in my locker. I didn't think I had
I'm
it.
sorry, BCAG?
Fell through the ceiling. BCAG, it was nice to meet everybody. I went down to their office and with BCAG, I brought up the issue with them about 2 of our bus stops that are, with their advertising thing, that are blocking you as you come out of the post office or as you come out of PID. And they told me about the history of that. For 2 years, we're waiting in San Francisco in the post office. So I stopped in the post office today. And I said, hi, here's my card. I'm on the council. I'm on BCAG. We need to move this. The cement's already poured, blah, blah, blah. Here's the story. She says, well, let's go look at it. So we walked outside. We took a look at it. And she says, see why we have to involve San Francisco. Why don't we just do it? I said, I'll have to contact you. I've left a message with them. Hopefully that'll get done. Next appointment is with
just ask for forgiveness.
With Mr. Barber. Yeah, I liked her attitude, and to see whether we can get the one at PID. They had indicated they would pour the slab to move it back, so we'll get at least those 2 fixed. Been in our public works yard for 15 years or more. And then on the air quality district, which is like an interesting one, they're putting together or I guess BCAG's doing it, they're environmental development available to us to use too. All the EPA issues, we're putting Air Quality District, the only really good news coming out of there is that there are some, the local Air Quality Board is very much in favor of trying Quality District. Well, yeah, and some of the EPA rules, I mean, like
the County Board of Supervisors and a representative from each city.
So they're, so there's some amendments to the, what is it, AB things, and so our local air quality district is really trying to lessen the impact on local so there's some good stuff going on with that. And
that part is, like, we got a guy in our district, or right now, he can't get rid of a piece of equipment, and it's not that old. But because of these restrictions, he wants to trade it in, and nobody will take it because this has got to change.
Yeah, they're talking about tweaking some of the.
He doesn't have to get rid of it. He wants to trade it in for a new model, but he can't. Nobody will take it. But you can take it across the border and they'll take it.
Anything else?
And Friday is our League of California Cities, Sacramento Valley Division.
Orland.
So,
Mrs. Jones, if you get away. Colleagues from other cities. Bowen, anything to? We had I'll just talk about it briefly about our meeting yesterday with the merchants on the outside display. That with my colleague, the vice mayor, and I, and planning commissioners Wentland, and members of our staff, Craig Baker and Rick Trent there, and along with the manager, and we had representatives from about 4 businesses, none of which were the problem ones with displays, but it was a good discussion, and they sympathize with us trying to come up with a way of regulating problems, and we looked at a number of different things, and we're kind of going back to look at some more options. I think Craig is going to work on that, and we're direction. Committee will meet again, and we will try to find a solution that works and is fair to everybody and is not onerous. And really, what we had come up with wasn't terribly onerous, but it swept up in the net some people that had never been a problem for us, and suddenly they're kind of identified in there that.
And I think the good part was that they got to see how difficult it is when you've got to make a regulation. Thank you. As to what that all entails. So that was very frustrating on their part, but very enlightening on their side too. And I think they would like to continue helping, but also possibly do their own governing of. But they can only do so much. Anyway, it was good.
Anyway, there was that, and we have upcoming meeting in Orland. I'm looking forward to. I had LAFCO last week, which wasn't terribly exciting. And one of the things I wanted to report on, a couple of things interesting. One, our insurance company came through with money on the street that lost to a fire, so that was a big.
And Station 83 is complete?
And Station 83 is complete. And one of the things we used the only contractor we could find that was interested in the job was out of Orville, but fortunately the majority of the materials he bought here in Paradise, and he used Dick's floor coverings to do the work. So I was happy to see that end result, that it was keeping it local, and that's always important to us. That's all I have.
Okay.
And then you want to talk about what we did with 7E.
7E, sure. With 7E, we needed some additional information, so we weren't prepared to bring it to the council, even though we added it as additional agenda material just in case we're able to get that on. So we do need to pull that off the agenda at this point, and we may be bringing it back. We will be meeting with PCV next Wednesday morning at 9 a.m. To talk about their existing loan with Rabobank that is due, and how to bridge that finance gap. So that is not on the council agenda at this point. And I also had 2 other things to report on briefly, and just to remind the council that we have the the Thrift and Antique Store Owners and Accountants Workshop on how to avoid the tax trap. And this is just a seminar, and it's going to be put on by the State Department of the State Board of Equalization. And that will be held March 26th here at Town Hall, 8:30 to 10. And it's going to be very informative, and again, it's just for informative purposes and to learn. And they're also having one on March 25th for restaurant owners on how to avoid the tax traps in the restaurant business. And that's going to be Tuesday, March 25th, 8:30 a.m. in the old municipal building in Chico, 441 Main Street. So there's that.
How are you getting word out to the...
The Chamber of Commerce just sent out one of their email blasts. We're putting it on our website and Facebook page. The state is also doing some advertising on that, and I believe they sent them out a mailing list.
Yeah, from the state on it. They sent it out to everybody that pays has a sales tax.
About the 26th?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Cool.
Okay, with that, we are going to move into closed session on 3 items pursuant to Government Code Section 5495 6.9, Section 4. Yes?
You don't need to read all that.
Oh, good.
Closed sessions would be held on items 10A, 10B, and 10C as...
Much better. Thank you, Dwight.
Wow, a lawyer that made it short. Dog.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for attending tonight.